Welcome in. It's week 8, folks, and I'm back. Ryan joining me as always, who you can find on Twitter at Mackie_FFB, and I am your host, as in Jeremy Popolars, who you can find on Twitter at PopesFFH. Ryan, it's week 8. The Bills have the Dolphins, and we only have 2 bye weeks, not 8.
Right.
What is up, Ryan?
Nothing, man. Just trying to get through this week. My fiance's whole family are Dolphins fans, so this week's always kind of important for me. They always are always talking before the game, and usually after the game they're not talking as much. But this is kind of like a bragging rights game. We handled them pretty well week 2, so I'm hoping that it's not as bad. Like they like text me and stuff before the game. They usually running their mouths before the game and stuff like that, and they'll text me every now and again, and it's just kind of funny the way it worked out in week 2. So hopefully we can get another W in week 8 now and go from there. How was your honeymoon?
Oh, it was Mexico. It was 75 and sunny. So it was nice. And then I landed in Buffalo, and it was 40 and rainy. So
sounds about right. You said,
but
you said you got a little bored down there. It seemed like it was like not necessarily bored, but it was kind of the same thing every day. But what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's just kind of sit on a beach and drink. I don't know. It feels like we kind of wished we did a little bit more, maybe another excursion or something like that. But we were a little ready to come home. Just seemed like it was a little long.
Yeah, I mean, you have that. It's especially if you're not used to living or not even living like that, but just not doing things like that. Like you just kind of run out of ideas and stuff to do. And
yeah, it's just, there's not much to do down there. You really just, that's what it is, sit there, go in the pool, drink, eat. We didn't love the food. We're not huge drinkers. So,
didn't love the food. Huh?
Nah, wasn't that great.
Really?
But nothing compares to Buffalo food. When we leave Buffalo, it turns into gets a little tough. At least for me. That's how I feel.
I figure the food down there would be amazing.
Not really. It's not that great.
I'm kind of surprised. Maybe I should have food. Maybe like the normal chef was on vacation or something.
I think
where do you go on vacation if you live in that area?
I don't know. There. Nah, I think it's just like how they cook it. Yeah, how they cook it, stuff like that. It's not anything crazy. You know what I mean? So
that's fair.
But Ryan, anything that you're looking at this week that you're worried about? Like any fantasy matchup that seems like it should be a slam dunk that you are worried might not be as much of a slam dunk as it seems?
I don't know if there's necessarily a matchup that seems like a slam dunk that might not be, but I posted this on Twitter earlier, or commented on a Twitter feed yesterday, I think, and I feel like he has to be in your lineup just because of touchdown upside, but Mike Evans is really nerve-wracking for me this week. Going against New Orleans, he's traditionally struggled against Marshawn Lattimore, and even with AB out, he just kind of makes me nervous. Saints defense has been really tough especially the last couple of weeks. They've been tough. So he's a guy that I'm kind of nervous about. Other than that, I mean, we're so far into the season now that we know what everybody is. We kind of know what everybody's weaknesses are. So I'm curious to see what the Chiefs defense is going to look like now with having most of their defense back. I saw Chris Jones is supposed to be active. Tyrann Mathieu is supposed to be active. So their whole defense should be back to normal relatively from what we were expecting at the beginning of the year. So they might not be as easy of a matchup as expected, but they've been really bad so far this year. So that's something that is worth keeping an eye on, in my opinion. They get the Giants that are missing quite a few guys, or could be missing quite a few guys. I know Sterling Shepard and Tony are questionable for this one. I think both limited were both limited basically all week. So I'm just kind of curious to see how that matchup goes for Daniel Jones and company. But just kind of that's one of the ones that seems like a slam dunk, but could be different if their defense can get things right now that they're getting healthy.
Fair. I like it. I just can't trust the Giants. So, but with the Giant included, our first question this morning, KZ has sit one of these: Tony, Higgins, Judy, or Lamb.
Tony.
Really? See, I'm a little worried on Jerry Judy. I like Jerry Judy. I like the matchup. It's really nice. But it worries me on him coming back. I know he had reported there was some soreness at the end of the week there in practice. So I'm just worried on what he's going to, you know what I mean? Do they limit him a little bit? There's a risk of an re-aggravation there. But Tony's also coming off an injury. So it's a little tough, but it's between those two for me. I think Higgins and Lamb should be just slam dunks. The only concern too is like Casey just commented, is what if Dak does sit? And the tough thing is you're not going to know. The only nice thing is like you could play it as in leave if you want to leave Jerry Judy in, you could just do the coin flip between CeeDee Lamb and Kadarius Toney. If Dak sits, I would maybe start Toney over Lamb. How do you feel about that move, Ryan?
Definitely concerning and definitely something you have to keep an eye on. But in the end, would you really be surprised if Lamb led that team in targets with Cooper Rush? Like, would you be shocked if that was the case? Because I don't think I would be. Because we don't know what he's going to look like in terms of who he's going to target or anything like that if he does play. But I think Lamb is too talented to sit him. I think you're just kind of going to have to deal with it if he busts for you. And like I said, Tony's still questionable, so you're not going to know what he's going to do. And I feel like if you're looking at that situation, you would rather take the chance on, especially because they play on Monday night. I don't know if I'd be willing to take the chance on Tony because you probably don't have somebody else to fill in for him if you start him and he sits. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I would rather just take the other three guys and just kind of take the L if one of those guys busts and Tony hits on Monday night. Because, like I said, coming off the injury and that offense, like it scares you. I'm a fan of Daniel Jones this week, but like I said, I would rather not take the chance on Tony and just take the chance on the other three guys that could be involved.
So he says that Slayton or Pettis are free agents in his league. So if that changes it at all,
that does change it because I like Darius Slayton if Tony sits. And I hear you on the Judy take. I get the injury concern and the risk factor for having a flare up, but I really like the matchup, and I feel like he was close to being able to go.
Yeah, he was medically cleared last week.
Yeah,
so like he could have played last week. He just I don't know if it was the team kind of wanted him to sit or it was just a mutual agreement that hey, I want to sit one more week and let everything get right. So I do think Judy will be okay. I'm just saying that I just don't know what they do. You know, do they take the precautious side because Cortland Sutton has been so good? And they have the running backs and they have Tim Patrick and they have Noah Fant. You know what I mean? They have weapons to like ease Jerry Judy in. That's all. I personally feel like I would play Higgins, Judy, and Lamb. I'm just giving you that warning, Casey, that like Jerry Judy could possibly be limited. But you're taking that risk with Tony. And then if I'm looking at it, like Tony, I feel like you have to, though. He's thinking about sitting Lamb if Dak sits and sitting Tony if Dak plays. Yeah, like I feel like that's how I would approach this, to be honest. I would leave Higgins, Judy, and Lamb in the lineup. If they rule out Dak and you have Cooper Rush, I don't blame you for sitting CeeDee Lamb. He still could lead the team in targets, like Ryan had said. I just don't expect that offense to be as good. So I could see starting Tony in that aspect. But it's tough because I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb than Dante Pettis or Darius Slayton.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird. It's a tough situation, especially with an injury player on Monday night. That's where it gets tough. Like last week, I sat Darren Waller because of the late games. and his questionability before he was ruled out. So it was kind of like I wasn't going to play him anyways, just because it's too hard with a Monday night player having that. There's not enough fill-ins. Like as a Dak owner, I have a lot of Dak Prescott, and it's tough. Like most of my other quarterbacks play this morning, but it's like, well, not morning, but play this afternoon. So it's like,
Yeah.
Do I play one of them? Because like I'd prefer to play Dak. I think that game's going to be a little bit high scoring. But if Dak sits, you don't have any other options. Like everybody's going to have rostered Daniel Jones and Patrick Mahomes. So it's like, that's your only other option if Dak sits. So it's tough. But the wide receivers, it's obviously a little bit easier. There's more options out there.
Yeah, what I would personally do is I would just do whatever gives you the most flexibility. So if I would definitely start Judy and Higgins, and then, I like the idea of sitting Lamb if Dak sits, but I don't know, Minnesota is still a bottom 12 defense to wide receivers in PPR, so he's so good that he might be able to make it worth it. But they also could lean on the run quite a bit and him not really do a whole lot. So I would just give yourself the most flexibility. And if you're more comfortable sitting Lamb if Dak sits, then that's completely understandable. But then just know that I would probably pick up Slayton regardless. Because you obviously have somebody that you can drop unless you're going to plan on dropping Tony. But that's kind of what I would do. I would just make sure that I have Slayton on my roster. And if you're going to sit Lamb, if you hear that Dak's sitting, you insert Tony, and then you learn Monday morning or Monday afternoon that Tony's sitting as well, then you have Slayton right there, and you don't take the chance of somebody else picking him up.
And you're welcome. And I like that. Basically what you summed up there, Ryan. I like that approach. It seems like it would be the best, in my opinion.
You also run the risk of somebody having a guy like Sterling Shepard that they might want to have plugged into their lineup, and then if he gets ruled out, then they're going to try to pick up Slayton as well. So that's just kind of where I'm at. That's where I would be leaning towards, is just trying to get Slayton in my roster or on my roster regardless, and then just kind of going from there.
I like it. Oh, sorry, everybody. It's Halloween, sinuses. Ryan, 1 o'clock window. Real quick. You got Carolina, Atlanta, Tennessee, Indy, Miami, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and the Jets, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Philly, Detroit, Rams and Houston, San Francisco, and Chicago. Out of those games, who is a player that people might not think they should start, but you're starting them? I know it's a lot of games, so it's a lot of things to think about. But
in that regard, honestly, I like Khalif Raymond a lot this week. Like, he's like a deeper guy, but he's a guy that I'm willing to put into my lineup if I have the space to do it. Especially if I need the help. Last 2 weeks, he's got 15 targets, 12 catches for 152 yards. Eagles have been stingy to wideouts. They're allowing the 5th fewest in the league in PPR, but Raymond just had a huge game against the Rams, and the Eagles defense isn't nearly as intimidating overall to me.
Do you think Darius Slay covers him? I was trying to figure this out all week. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, you got Philly, and obviously Darius Slay is a stud corner. He hasn't allowed much of anything to any wide receiver this season. And I'm sitting there thinking, who is he going to cover for the Lions?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't.
That's my only worry with Khalif Raymond.
I don't think Khalif Raymond's a guy that they're worried about enough for him to shadow. To be honest with you,
yeah.
I don't think that that's what they're going to look to do.
Do you think he covers Hawkinson?
What's that?
Do you think they slide him in and cover Hawkinson?
I think that they do that quite often. Like I said, I don't think Khalif Raymond's somebody that you're going to take your best corner away and strictly cover him.
I was just curious.
Hawkinson probably is a guy that they want to move him in and guard him from time to time, especially if he splits offline. If he splits out wide a little bit or in the slot or anything like that, I would assume that he's probably going to take him in those situations. But I like Raymond this week. It's just they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to move the ball. I do like DeAndre Swift as a smash play this week as well. But
yeah, DeAndre Smith seems like just a start at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're starting him regardless, but I think he's got like top 3 potential this week. So
yeah, especially in PPR.
Yeah.
All right, JM. Good morning to yourself. Happy Halloween. I don't know if anybody had Halloween parties, but I did not, and I feel like a loser as I see all these people posting these pics on Twitter of their Halloween costumes with their significant others, and here I am Saturday night watching college football like a loser. Anyways, back to this for JM here. Judy, Higgins, or Thielen. We got to play one of them, Ryan. And I really wish I was on JM's team. I wish I was the manager there because that's a tough situation. And I hate having these depth questions because I want to start them all. Man.
For me, it's Thielen.
So I just feel like I like T. Higgins here. I like Thielen. I get it. He definitely just came off a big week too, playing Dallas. I think that Trayvon Diggs shadows Justin Jefferson, so Thielen's probably going to be the guy that Cousins is going to have to lean on. But I can also see Minnesota riding Dalvin Cook. He's had a couple weeks off. If he's fully healthy, especially against that Dallas defense, I think that Dalvin Cook could have a huge game. Just because that's how that Minnesota offense really gets going, is through that run game. I just like T. Higgins against the Jets. I know the script might not be totally there, but I think he saw 15 targets last week. He saw an absurd amount of targets last week, and it's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's that offense. Tyler Boyd's fallen to the wayside. So I'm in on T. Higgins. Ryan, you're a little bit on Thielen. I would just sit Judy in this situation. I like Jerry Judy too, but you have 2 better options, or at least equal options. So I'm fine with sitting Jerry Judy here because of the injury concern. I think he could still have a big week, but I just like what T. Higgins brings with that target share.
Yeah.
So,
and that's fair. I
feel like
the only thing that concerns me is if Burrow hits Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon or even CJ. The Raji comes in later on and they ride him for a little bit, and it's just kind of concerning in that regard because
like a game
Diggs.
Script.
I expect him to. I expect Trayvon to be. Yeah, and if Dak plays for Dallas, then that makes that game script for Thielen even better.
Yeah.
And last week,
the over-under is definitely
Thielen saw 13 targets.
Yeah.
So I'm just the touchdown upside of Thielen. So that's just kind of where I'm leaning. I don't know if this is PPR or standard, but I like the touchdown upside of Thielen. And if Diggs is the lockdown corner that he seems to be, I feel like Thielen is just going to be the guy that they have to target early and often in order to move the ball. So that's just kind of where I'm leaning. Dallas is actually a top 12 defense in terms of running backs and PPR. So
but we're talking
still like a big day from Calvin, but
I get it. I like it. Like I said, I like the Thielen play. I agree with everything you just said. And he is Kurt's guy. He's the old faithful in that offense. So like I said, to me, it feels like a coin flip. It's whoever you think, JM, that like you feel most comfortable with there. I feel like for me, you could just axe Judy out of this because they're all fairly equal. The upside and the floors are there for all 3 of these guys. So I would just kind of coin flip it with T. Higgins and Adam Thielen. Feel it out and just kind of whatever you really feel in your heart, because like T. Higgins, I think, can have a big day. And I also think Adam Thielen, I would feel Adam Thielen's upside's bigger. You know what I mean? If you're really shooting it, if you really want to break it down, the upside play is Adam Thielen because he is going to have that better game script, like you said, Ryan, and he's probably going to be the guy with Trayvon Diggs covering Justin Jefferson. Where T. Higgins is kind of a little bit just like the upside's probably not there. He's probably only going to get 1 touchdown, if that, and he's going to see 10 targets. He might get 100 yards. You know what I mean? Where Adam Thielen could have 3 touchdowns and 100 yards. So So that's kind of where it's at for me. It's probably Thielen has the biggest upside, but also kind of maybe a little bit riskier. But start two, full PPR.
If it makes you feel any better about that one, Dallas, even with Trayvon Diggs playing the way he's playing, Dallas is still 6th worst in terms of wide receiver production. So it's another.
Yeah, they just give up absurd amount. I mean, they've also played some pretty good offenses with great wide receivers, but they still give up yards. It's just Trayvon Diggs has just been the big thing with him is he's just been picking off every quarterback he can every single week. So, but team out of nowhere, start to full PPR: Zeke, Najee, James Robinson, and JT.
Ugh. Jeez. How are you not able to start 3 of these guys? At least 3.
Yeah, maybe league format. Maybe it's only like start. Maybe he's got really good wide receivers, or she has really good wide receivers. Or maybe they don't play flex. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's just one running back, one flex. There's some interesting leagues.
Yeah, I'm in a league where I can only start 1 running back. So,
man, I'm a little bit out on Najee. Cleveland's defense is really good, and especially the front 4 and 7. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have a decent game. I just feel like the upside for him is not as much there. James Robinson for me is a must start against Seattle. Seattle's defense is not great. I just feel like also Trevor Lawrence has kind of been a little meh. I think they're just going to lean a little bit more on James Robinson as they have been. So I'm in on him. I definitely think he sees a touchdown. I think Jacksonville wins that game as well. A little extra tidbit there. I think they get it done. And then JT to me seems like I'd probably I would probably just go with JT. With the workload that he's been getting lately, he's been very explosive. He looks really good. Tennessee's good, but I think that game's kind of turns into a shootout, and I think JT's going to have to get used. And I just feel like Tony Pollard and Zeke, you're getting a little bit of a split there. It seems like JT's kind of taken over. Naeem Hines has really fallen to the wayside there. So how about you, Ryan? I don't know. I like them all, but
I think JT is the must start for me there. Just with how Tennessee's defense has been, not Tennessee. They play Tennessee, right? Yeah, they play Tennessee.
Yeah,
how Tennessee's defense has been. That I feel like he's just kind of the guy, and he's seen a ton of opportunities the last handful of weeks. Now that they've really implemented him into the offense properly, I think he's seen like 14 plus carries in 4 straight or something. It's clearly there. He's one of those guys this week that, like you said, Cleveland's got a tough defense, but in that pass rush is going to be Myles Garrett, and that pass rush is going to be getting after Ben, but that could be one of those games where he's just constantly dumping off to Najee and seeing short routes to Deontay and things like that. So he could have a huge PPR ceiling. But James Robinson is a great play against Seattle. I mean, these are all good matchups for the most part. I would be a little bit hesitant on Zeke if Dak doesn't play, because we saw what happened last year when Dak didn't play for Zeke. I know this is a different year, and he seems to look a little bit better. But like you said, they have Pollard working in there as well, and he seems to be getting enough run to be even flex consideration. So I think I like JT and James Robinson here, to be honest with you. That's
Seattle.
The game against Seattle. I mean, Geno Smith at quarterback. I know the Jacksonville defense isn't great, but Geno Smith isn't going to put up 35 points and make Jacksonville have to throw a ton. And even if they do, James Robinson's been getting involved in the passing game. So I think that game's kind of lower scoring, but I feel like if they do score, it's James Robinson that gets some 1 or 2 scores. So I would go with JT and James Robinson, but that's tough to sit guys like Zeke and Najee because their upsides are just so high.
No, I agree. But that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm at the same thing. James Robinson and JT for me in this situation. Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones, or Carson Wentz. We got to play one of these guys, Ryan. They're all good. Honestly, they're all pretty nice plays this week.
Yeah.
I feel like Carson Wentz is going to have a lot of throwing to an extent against the Tennessee defense. I think that game is kind of a little bit of a shootout. Not crazy. But Daniel Jones, Kansas City's been giving up a lot of points to quarterbacks. Matt Ryan's looked pretty good lately. And I'm always on the Kirk Cousins train, so it's always hard here whenever they have Kirk Cousins. But, man.
See, I think I would honestly lean Cousins if I knew Dak was going to play. If I knew Dak was going to play, I would be leaning Cousins because I feel like that game would have a lot more shootout potential if he was playing for sure.
I agree.
But I like Matt Ryan against Carolina. Just with how they've played the last 4 weeks in that 4-game stretch they've lost, their defense has not been good. At least not in terms of what they've allowed to quarterbacks. So I think I'm going to go him there. I feel like he just has a better weapons of these guys that are going to be in positive game scripts for them. I know Atlanta, Carolina, that game could go into Atlanta's favor pretty early, but Matt Ryan having Kyle Pitts, who's blowing up the last couple weeks, and then Calvin Ridley outside, and Cordell Patterson doing what he's doing so far this year, I would go Matt Ryan there. And like I said, it's purely based off of if Kirk Cousins was for sure going to be going up against Dak, I think I would start him. But Daniel Jones is lacking weapons right now, and Carson Wentz going against Tennessee, that game could be lower scoring with it being an interdivisional game. So I think I'm going to go Matt Ryan there.
Interesting. See, I just don't like Matt Ryan. I don't like him this week that much. Carolina's pretty good. I get that the weapons are there, but I'm in on Kirk Cousins this week. He's pretty much torched Dallas the last 2 years. So whether Dak's playing or not, I think Kirk Cousins has a decent game. It's the safest play. Matt Ryan could be in for trouble. The offensive line is really bad, and Carolina's front seven's pretty good. So I just don't know how that's going to shake out. And I think Carolina really wants to get a get-right game going. And I think Sam Darnold has a better game than what he's had lately. And I think that Carolina gets the job done there and locking down Matt Ryan. So for me, I'm like between Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones just because I know Daniel Jones is lacking weapons, but he still had a solid game last week with like even less weaponry. Dante Pettis has stepped in pretty good. So the Chiefs they're scrambling right now, and I like Daniel Jones's effort. Not effort, but what he brings. He brings a decent rushing floor, and he always performs on like the big stage Sunday night, Monday night. He always does something, whether it's taking the ball for 85 yards and tripping over himself. There's always a memorable moment. All right, and Daniel Jones is making OBJ catches over here. This man is ready. He's a baller. He wants to do it. So I'm between Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones. So, Jam, you can – I guess we just gave you 3 quarterbacks and probably didn't really make your decision all that
Pick
much.
one of the 3.
But we're both out on Carson Wentz. That helps. You eliminated 1. You're down to 3. But, yeah, I mean, I can't trust Matt Ryan yet. So that's just how I feel.
What do you mean you can't trust him yet?
I can't. I don't care. He's had a couple good weeks, but I know he's been there, but I just feel like that offense is just.
He's got 18 plus in 3 straight.
I don't like. I staying loving it.
Fair enough, man.
All right. I don't know.
I think it's who do I sit? Or who do I start? Who do I start in my flex?
Aha, fair. Good point. All right, who do I start in my flex? I wasn't sure if it was going to be start or sit. I was getting a little confused there. Full PPR, Damian Harris, Khalil Herbert, or J.D. McKissick. Ryan, you lead us off.
Ooh, I like Damian Harris a lot this week. He's one of the guys that I have listed as a start for me. Los Angeles just isn't that great against the run. They've really kind of just focused on shutting down the pass, and they're one of the better pass defending teams in the league. And I think Bill Belichick is a smart enough coach to know that. So I feel like they're going to lean on him quite a bit. I just saw on NFL Live before we went live here that they're expecting him to get 20 plus touches this week. So Damian Williams is back for Chicago. Khalil Herbert's look great, but I feel like Damian Williams is still going to get worked in at least a little bit, enough to cap Herbert's upside a little bit. And they don't have the greatest matchup against the 49ers. It's not terrible, but it's not the greatest. And J.D. McKissick, he's obviously in a timeshare type of thing with Antonio Gibson. I know he's been battling injuries, and he's kind of been the guy that's been getting more snaps recently, but I think that shin injury has a lot to do with that. But they're playing at Denver, and that defense is a little bit better than I think what they've shown recently. So I'm going to go with Damian Harris there. I think he has the most touchdown upside. Probably has the most. If I had to bet, I would say that he probably has the most touches on the week of these three guys as well. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. We just saw New England's offense explode, and I know it was against a really bad defense overall, but I'm still leaning Harris there, just for the volume upside.
Yeah, I like that play. I can agree with that. I think that Khalil Herbert, I like him. He's proven well. But Damian Harris is back, and it kind of gets a little dicey there. And San Francisco's not the best matchup. I also, without Matt Nagy, I know Matt Nagy's not great, and I know that everybody's calling for him. But it always hurts when your head coach isn't there, despite the situation. So we don't know exactly what that offense is going to look like. Maybe they unleash Justin Fields a little bit more. Maybe there's less of a run game. I don't really know how that is going to go down. So I like Damian Harris. Like you said, Ryan, the Chargers are actually really bad against running backs for fantasy sake. So I'm in on Damian Harris this week. I think he should see, as long as he holds on to the football. Like you said, they do want to give him the ball a little bit more. He could easily have 1 or 2 touchdown upside. Mac Jones has looked good. They can move that offense, so it's not like he's incapable. So I like it, and it just feels safer. J.D. McKissick, like you said, too, that timeshare. I know he gets most of the work from behind, but Denver is pretty good against running backs, and I just don't know how that game's going to look. I feel like that game's going to be mucky and kind of just 2 decent defenses, and it just turns into 2 teams that are struggling at the quarterback position, and I just feel like that game might end up being really low scoring, where the Chargers Patriots might turn out to be a little bit more high scoring. And Damian Harris might have a couple more opportunities for the touchdowns there. So I agree. I'd go Damian Harris as well. A defensive question from JM Ryan. Bengals, 49ers, or Colts defense? I know where I'm going to go, but I'll let you go first.
It's got to be the Bengals, right?
Ooh,
I feel like it's got to be.
I feel like we're twins.
I mean, they're getting. I can't even remember his name, like Mike Smith or Zach Smith or whatever the heck his. I don't even know his name that they're playing against this week.
Oh, Mike White.
Yeah, Mike White. When I saw that, I graduated.
What you're trying to figure out.
I graduated with a kid named Mike White, and I was like, "Is Mike White the backup quarterback for the New York Jets right now?" Yeah, I'm all over the Bengals. They have been a lot better than I think a lot of people have been thinking they would be going into the season. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC right now, and they're 9th against quarterbacks so far to start the year. and the running backs for New York have left a little bit to be desired. Michael Carter's kind of coming along, but Cincinnati's even middle of the road against them. It just kind of all works out in favor of Cincinnati. That game's at the Jets, but I don't expect that to really matter. I feel like that game's going to get out of hand. I wouldn't expect the Jets to do a whole lot. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I feel like it's pretty easy, even though these other two teams have good matchups. You got to take the guy that's never started a game before, or take the defense that's playing against a team that's never started before.
I agree with you. It's close for me between Bengals and 49ers. Again, because I'd mentioned with Matt Nagy and the Bears just being the Bears, I could see the 49ers maybe getting a little bit. But I think the Bengals have a big game. They have no Corey Davis, most likely. They have their lead receiver is supposed to be, I believe, probably either Keelan Cole, Crowder, or Elijah Moore. That's who Mike White's throwing to. And then all you have is Michael Carter. Tevin Coleman's out. So it's Michael Carter and Lamaje Perine. Ty Johnson, I think, is questionable. So to me, the Bengals are just a really good defense. They've come out. They're fast. They're quick. I like their opportunity to get a couple turnovers, which is definitely key in defensive points, definitely sacks. Justin Fields might be able to avoid the sacks, just get like 0 gain, 1 yard gains with his legs, where Mike White doesn't give you that opportunity. So I'm in on the Bengals. I'm streaming them in a couple spots this week as well.
Do you think Chicago fans are kind of excited for this game to see what their offense does without Matt Nagy in the game?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, do you really think that they're like borderline happy that he's not going to be taking part in this?
Oh, for sure. I mean, at least that's how it feels on Twitter. Anybody that I know that's a Bears fan or anything like that, all over Twitter, everybody's kind of just like they want Matt Nagy gone. So I think this is a good idea, or not a good idea, but a good situation to see what it could be without him. But it's still kind of his offense, so we got to remember that too. So, but yeah, 1 PPR, pick 2, Marvin Jones, Cortland Sutton, Amari Cooper, Landry, Jacoby Myers, and Kadarius Toney. Ryan, lead us off.
Ooh. See, this is where the Dak injury really throws you off, because like Amari Cooper would be a must start with this group if for sure he was playing. But he's not. They came out this morning when I was listening. They said that if Dak has any sort of soreness whatsoever, they're not going to play him tonight. So I'm a little bit hesitant on starting Cooper this week. I love Cortland Sutton this week. I feel like he's the guy that I'm for sure starting in this group. And then I haven't seen anything about Baker Mayfield playing or not playing. I don't know. I haven't seen if he's been ruled out or where he's at. But
I think he's playing.
If he plays, Jarvis Landry might be a sneaky PPR play, just because Pittsburgh defense is traditionally tough, but they haven't been that tough so far this year against wide receivers. I think they're actually pretty low in terms of that, especially compared to what they're used to. If I remember correctly from what I was looking up. Yeah, I mean, they're about 3. They're the third most, 43.4 points PPR to wide receivers so far this year. So he might be a sneaky upside play. In terms of Sutton, no, I don't think Judy coming back takes much away from Sutton, to be honest with you. I think that just kind of evaporates Tim Patrick's value. Maybe not for this week. I think like Jeremy had said, Sutton might be on a snap count, but he was cleared to play last week, and they held him out, so he's likely a full go. So if he is a full go, I don't think it takes much away from Sutton. I think it takes more away from Tim Patrick and the rest of those other wide receivers over there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sutton is pretty safe still. Judy really kills Tim Patrick. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I was just doing some other research, and Washington plays a lot of cover 1 defense, and that leans towards Sutton being able to get open and get up over the top of defenses. So I like Sutton this week a lot. I'm really not worried about him with Judy. I think that kind of opens things up even more for him as opposed to doing the opposite. But if Dak plays, I mean, you're starting Cooper, but you can't wait for him to be either declared active or inactive because all these guys play.
Aside from Tony, but again, another guy that has injury concerns.
So,
well, Marvin Jones is a 4:00 game.
Yeah, but you're still not going to know if Dak's going to play before then. Like he's a game time. They're going to walk him through warm-ups and all that stuff and see how he feels during warm-ups. So,
Jacoby Myers is a late game too. I mean, if you're really on top of it, you could really sit and wait with Amari Cooper till at least 4. Kind of see if you see any more news. Like you said, you might not know, but you might by 4:20 to be able to put in Jacoby Myers or Marvin Jones. If you want.
Yeah, but I don't like Jacoby Myers against Los Angeles. I don't like that matchup. See, that's another route that you can go. To be honest with you, like that, I'm fine with taking that route.
I mean, I feel like I'd stream Dante Pettis if he's available over Darius Slayton. That's my personal opinion. It seems like Pettis has kind of emerged as the guy because Slayton played last week and it was Dante Pettis. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I mean, I like Slayton as a talent. I just feel like he's in a certain role, and that's a field stretcher. And Dante Pettis kind of took over. I don't know if he's available in your league, but.
I mean,
it's tough because I
Slayton saw 9 targets last week. So
yeah, but what did he do? How many catches did he have?
5 for 63.
Not terrible.
5 for 63.
He's kind of like he's got a lot of contested catch, so it kind of. So yeah, like both are available. Like I would take Dante Pettis before I took Darius Slayton. That's my opinion in that matchup. Just in general, I feel like they see about the same amount of targets, and Pettis's are more catchable balls, just because of the route trees and how they get him open.
I mean, if you're willing to go that route, I would do that. But Marvin Jones also does not have a bad matchup against Seattle as well. So, but like I said, that game might not be that high scoring with Geno Smith being in the lineup. So, but Trevor Lawrence has looked a lot better. So Jones could be a guy that if you're not willing to wait on Cooper and Tony, then you might be able to start him. But it's more, like I said, if Cooper's a start here if Dak plays, but it's just so hard because you don't know if he's going to play or not because they're going to walk him through warm-ups to see if he has any soreness or not.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing. But I feel like Cooper's a must-start if Dak plays.
Yeah.
So I feel like the route that you have to take is kind of what you had said there, which is start Cooper. So we're picking 2, yeah. So I would probably say, who'd you say, Ryan? Did you say Cortland Sutton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I would go Cortland Sutton as my one must start, and then the second would be Amari Cooper, and then worst case scenario, you get Kadarius Toney or Dante Pettis. Just seems like the right play. The rest all just seem risky. Like Cortland Sutton seems safe. He's going to get his volume to an extent. He could possibly get that touchdown. Amari Cooper, is going to get that volume, and Kadarius Toney will. Whereas in Marvin Jones, we've seen it. I mean, it's Jacksonville. We don't know what the offense totally looks like. His upside's there, but the risk is that he could have 0 points. Where Jarvis Landry, kind of the same thing. He's coming off an injury. We saw him come back last time from an injury, then also go back right out. Also, you might see a lot of Nick Chubb in this game. I know it. I think from what I saw on the morning broadcast here, it looks a little rainy there. So Landry, you might not even see a ton of passing. And then Jacoby Myers is an interesting one to me. I think he could have a big day, but he also could be shut down by the Chargers, like you said, Ryan. So I kind of like what you said there. Just go with Sutton, Cooper, and then how you said there. If Dak sits, start Toney, and then stream either Pettis or Slayton. My starting running backs are Damian Harris and Cook. My flex is Gainwell. Are any of those receivers better than Gainwell or Harris?
Not for me.
Gainwell's an interesting play this week. I kind of like him, but I'm also kind of not totally liking it. I don't think Detroit forces Philadelphia to have to throw. I'm also just a little afraid that Boston Scott gets a lot more work than we think. That's really tough because you figure if you're starting Sutton and Cooper, so you're talking either Landry, Jones, or Myers better than Kenny Gainwell.
I don't think so. I'm still starting Gainwell over those other guys.
Yeah, I think the upside for
game.
Gainwell's bigger.
Yeah.
Because if he does get that workload, he will probably easily have 15 points safely. Where the other guys, like I said, you could see goose eggs out of some of those. So, no, I think I'd stick with what you got. Start Sutton and Cooper, and then just pivot off of Cooper. If it's tough because even Cooper, though, again, if Dak doesn't play, like Cooper Rush kind of looked okay, you know. But yeah, pivot off of Cooper if you want. If Dak doesn't play, and go with Tony. But I wouldn't start any of them over Gainwell to answer this question directly, I think.
No, not for me.
Notification.
What are you doing?
I'm checking Twitter to see if we have any questions. Ryan.
Have you seen anything? There's a ESPN popped up on my phone. It said developing story, but I couldn't see what it was. Like I accidentally swiped it away on accident. Did you happen to see anything pop up?
No. Let me check. No, but I also don't really get ESPN notifications, so
I wonder what that was. I didn't even get a chance to see what exactly it was about. I don't know if it was about the NFL or what it was, but it just said developing story. And the next time I swiped it away on accident. I was like, oh shit.
Well, why did you do that, Ryan?
I don't know. I'm slacking. It's just kind of what I do. I get in a hurry and I'm just like trying to wipe stuff away. It just kind of happens.
All right. So I'm going to ask you the question I asked you about the 1 o'clock window.
What?
The second window, 4 o'clock games. Anybody that you are a little bit concerned about that most people probably think is a slam dunk?
Oof. Honestly, not really. But if there is a guy that I'm a little bit hesitant on, it would be Robert Woods. Just with how the offense has been operating basically all year long. Cooper Kupp seems to be, or it's not even seems to be, he is the number one target there for Matt Stafford. And Houston is actually really solid against wide receivers. They're only allowing 33 points a game in PPR, which is sixth best in the league. So I'm a little bit hesitant on Robert Woods if that game gets out of hand and Darrell Henderson and Kupp and Tyler Higbee, who I expect to have a big game this week, can get that lead extended early. I wouldn't expect too much out of Robert Woods this week. I'm not saying you shouldn't play him or people shouldn't have him in their lineups just because the upside's there. But I'm a little bit hesitant on him. I feel like if you have some guys that have higher upside, I feel like you could target that as opposed to just seeing Houston on the schedule and saying, oh, it's Houston, so he should have a big game. Like I said, they're sneakily the number 6 defense in terms of wide receiver production in PPR. So I'd be a little bit hesitant on him this week, or at least temper expectations a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fair concern. I like that. Like you alluded to a little earlier, I think Mike Evans might be a little bit of a concerner. I'm a little bit stressed on that situation because Marshawn Lattimore has been pretty good against him in his career. So I feel like at this point, Mike Williams seems like a slam dunk because he's been so good the last couple of weeks. And he still might be, like you said. I definitely would still start Mike Williams. I just kind of tempering expectations there. I Evans. Yeah, you're right. Not Mike Williams. I get them confused. They're like the same now. They're just like these touchdown monsters, But yeah, Mike Evans. A little bit concerned. So I'm not starting him. I just feel like I'm tempering expectations there. So
yeah, I have Mike Evans. I'm going to start him in a league that I'm starting him over Chase Claypool this week, and
I like that.
I am just really nervous about it. I don't like Claypool's upside this week just because of that Browns pass rush, but I'm not a huge fan of Mike Evans this week, so I'm kind of just hoping that I'm wrong in my concerns for him, but I'm not feeling great about him being in my lineup.
No, and I totally agree with you. I like that. I just don't. It's just kind of like it's a little scary. That's about it. All right, Ryan. I don't see many questions from Twitter. Little. Must be people have just figured out how to handle their lineup.
Well, it's still early. It's still only not even 11 o'clock yet.
Ryan, all right, my time's a little bit confused. Okay, I'm a little tired. All right, I'm still jet lagged. It might have been a week.
Is it your jet lag? You landed like last week.
Doesn't matter. Okay, I'm still jet lagged. So
you sat on a beach for 2 weeks.
No, don't. What you're trying to say? I'm not supposed to be?
No, I'm not saying that at all. But you should be nice. You should be refreshed. You should be very energetic coming into this show. You should be ready to go. By the way, do you know how hard it is to talk to yourself on a podcast?
It's very hard.
Dude, it is brutal.
Hence why I never had one until we linked up.
Brutal.
I tried it for a hot minute, and it's hard to talk to yourself and a screen for like an hour.
Yeah, like getting no feedback,
like 20 minutes
from anything. And then like I did get a couple questions throughout the show on Tuesday, so like that was nice to answer questions and things like that. But just having nothing coming back to you in terms of like feedback or any pushback on anything or anything like that, like it was just weird. It was just really, really awkward and weird at times because it's just. I mean, there was a lot to talk about, like a lot of injuries and stuff like that to talk about, but it was just weird. It was hard. It's hard to do.
All right, I got one. It's not necessarily. It's from Twitter. Chenault, Waddle, or Cooks, pick one PPR, and then also Javonte, Gaskins, or Khalil Herbert, pick one PPR.
So take this one step at a time. Who was the first one?
Chenault, Waddle, Cooks, pick one PPR.
Chenault, Waddle, Cooks. To be honest with you, I know it's weird, but I kind of like Waddle this week just because I feel like they're going to be down and they're going to have to throw a ton. And we saw how Pittsburgh attacked Buffalo's defense and was relatively effective in doing so. And his ADOT is extremely low. It's one of the lower in the league. So they might attack Buffalo secondary the same way that Pittsburgh did and try to get him touches just at the line of scrimmage and try to let him go to work after the catch. I like Chenault too against Seattle because, like I said, Trevor Lawrence is playing better. But in a game that's expected to be a blow, I'm pretty sure Buffalo's favored by like 2 touchdowns or something like that.
Yeah, 14 points.
What's that?
It's 14 points.
Yeah, so they're favored to win pretty handily. I think they're gonna have to throw a ton. I'm not a huge fan of Gaskin this week for that reason. But we also saw him tear up Tampa Bay. So I don't really know what to do with him, to be honest with you. But I do like Waddle this week. But if you didn't want to start him because of the matchup, I'm perfectly fine with starting Chenault over him too. Because just kind of the same thing, but it's just a much better matchup on paper. So I'll either go with Waddle or Chenault if you're not worried about the matchup. If you're just kind of chasing a volume upside play, I feel like Waddle might very well see enough targets to make up for the tough matchup.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I personally like LaVisca just because I think that the Bills shut down Jalen Waddle. If you're not too worried about that situation, then Jalen Waddle's a smart play. He's gone off a couple weeks, so I don't hate that. All right. Let's see here. Hold on. What was the other part of the question? I forgot already. Oh, there it is. Javonte, Myles Gaskins, or Khalil Herbert. They're all PPR.
I really like Javonte this week against Washington. I know he's kind of in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon right now, but he has looked like the better back. To be honest with you, he just looks better overall. Melvin did have a nice touchdown last week that I saw. That was really impressive. But Washington's defense hasn't been great. They're a little bit better against the run than they are against the pass. But I just like Javonte Williams and where he's trending towards. I just feel like he's bound to start getting more work. And if I think Melvin Gordon's questionable for this game, I think he does have an injury designation going into this week. So
questionable all year.
What's that?
He's been questionable all year.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like the upside of Javonte Williams. Gaskin, like I said, makes me really nervous with the matchup. And then Khalil Herbert, like we said earlier, Damon Williams is back. Not the greatest matchup against the Niners, so I would go with Javonte Williams in that case.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you couldn't tell that. Oh, wrong direction. Do that every single time. That way.
That one.
Yeah, I just think Javonte is a better play. Myles Gaskin against the Bills is just not good. We saw it in the second week of the season when they played. And Herbert concerns me a little bit with the San Francisco matchup. And we know that they're going to kind of try and get Damian Williams involved. So I like it. All right, Ryan. That's all I got for you from Twitter.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. Like I said, it's early. Oh, you said it was early, but a lot of people, I feel like by now the start-sit questions get a little easier for people. You kind of know who they are. You know, they just don't like us.
Well, and the fact that there's only 2 teams on a bye plays a factor as well. Not having as many guys on a bye makes it a lot easier to set your lineups, I think, because you're not questioning this super deep depth piece or this super deep depth piece. So that's just I think that's part of the reason why people aren't as interested in questions. I'm even looking on Twitter throughout the show, and even get people that are posting questions on there aren't getting as many responses as I normally would see from them. So I'm not really surprised, to be honest with you.
It's a Halloween hangover. Austin's here. He's going to talk about my personal injuries from getting too twisted in Cabo and falling off planes. No, that didn't happen. It was a joke. God, everybody relax.
What the?
Hey, man, congratulations, man. I'm happy for you. Yes, sir.
Austin, why is nobody asking questions this morning? Is everybody still? Is it an injury thing? Did they all get hurt at their Halloween parties?
It's early.
So I thought the Halloween parties were going to be tonight. So I don't know.
I think it was all last night, at least according to Twitter.
Yeah.
I see everybody posting their pics.
You can't have a party before Monday and work, Austin.
Hey, man. Hey, Sunday fun day. You know, that's what the people, at least down south, they call it Sunday fun day. They do
true.
a lot of things on Sundays now more than any other day. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
How's it going, Austin? I haven't seen you
good,
in a while.
man. How you doing?
I'm doing.
Y'all ready for a win? Who y'all play today? Y'all play. I think I got a little
Miami.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say I got a cakewalk, man.
Oh, I'm ready for the win.
I
We don't even got to worry about it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I respect the Dolphins.
Right? Yeah, I know.
No, you don't know why.
This would be like a stereotypical Bills loss, though. So.
No, y'all are not losing to the Dolphins. And it's at home, isn't it? Because y'all played in Miami.
Yeah.
Y'all are not losing to them at home. Yeah.
Wearing the throwbacks, staying in Buffalo. You know, it's gonna be a good one.
How many games are y'all planning to go to this year? Have y'all went to any yet?
I'm not going to any.
I haven't gotten up to any.
No.
I haven't gone in a while. I just don't love the
really?
atmosphere. I'm not a big drinker, so like it gets the games get rowdy.
Yeah, I heard y'all a little wild in Buffalo.
No.
So
it's fine.
it's just I prefer to sit on my couch,
I'm with you.
watch Red Zone.
Yeah. And watch everything and
like
look
if
at
they
the fantasy.
yeah, and then like if they start to annoy me, I can just switch the channel, and be like, I don't have to actually sit there and experience it.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
All right, Austin. Is Baker Mayfield playing?
Yeah. So I got a few injury updates today. Kadarius Toney, trending strongly towards playing Monday night. Hard to gauge the risk aggravation, but I expect him to be active, probably with limited packages. They're going to be probably careful with him, particularly with, we got another 8 games to play. And then productive targets are possible. And then, again, I think he'd likely be involved in the snaps he does play. So look for him to play there. Rob Gronkowski, clear to practice in pads. So that suggests that the medical staff is comfortable with contact. I know Schefter said he expects him to play, so I would probably lean towards him playing. So, like I said, expect to active with a limited role, but I think he'll be a very, very good red zone target. So if I think he's viable play just for those red zone packages. And we know him and Tom have a good connection in the red zone. Jerry Judy, some concern after some soreness after the did not practice on Friday. I read some reports Saturday that are probably really more reassuring, and then he moved to the active roster as expected. So, again, I'm not guaranteeing a full complement of snaps, but I think he should probably get anywhere between 6 to 8 targets, with maybe potential upside as possible. Austin Eckler, he will play, confirmed by ESPN. So definitely put him in your lineups. The Chargers really hold out players. Practice for treatment. So there's been a little bit of minimal concern throughout the week anyway. So I expect a reasonable base load workload for him, low risk for in-game issues. So go all the way in on Austin Eckler today. And then Dak, which is the big one. So earlier he required PRP injections, which if anybody knows, it's basically a form of stem cells injections in a week. So that's why he had walked through reps only, because you don't want to put a lot of load that takes, what I mean load is like joint forces. After you put stem cells into the joint, you want the body to uptake it. So you don't want to put a lot of stress to the joint. So that's why he had walkthroughs mostly through this week. Again, I'm a little less optimistic as the week progressed. So I know they don't want to risk any further issues. So I know it's a game time decision, and he's traveling with the team to Minnesota, but I would not expect him to play, particularly with the PRP injection. To me, that's the biggest indication that he probably won't play. For him to play after getting stem cell injections, I just don't see the medical rationale behind that. So those are my top 5. Anybody else that comes up, let me know. But Dak was the big one. I don't expect him to play with him receiving the PRP injections earlier this week. So.
That's not what I wanted you to say.
Yeah, the PR. If I didn't see the report about the stem cells, I probably would have said they were going to leave him to play. But for him to get the stem cells this early in the year lets me know that they're obviously trying to continue to allow that area to heal, and they want him for the long term. And they already have a good record. I mean, they're 5-1. So I just don't see them taking that risk this early in the year. So, yeah.
Depressing. We got a question. At least to bring my hopes up after that. This week, pick 3: AJ Brown, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin, or Deebo Samuel. I'm just saying, Trayvon Diggs could play some wide receiver.
Right, I think he could
switch
some of the
him
best
over.
hands any DB.
Anyways, Ryan, what are you thinking?
Don't come to me first.
Fine, I'll go first. Stephon Diggs is a must start for me against Miami. It's going to be a little rainy, but he's kind of getting back into that offense. No Dawson Knox, who's turned out to be the best receiver on the Bills. So I like Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to get his share. I think he feel like he's a must start. Deebo Samuel to me feels like another must start. Even against Chicago, they're not going to have Khalil Mack, which you wouldn't think would affect a wide receiver, but the pass rush might be a little bit weaker. So I'm in on Deebo Samuel. And then AJ Brown with Julio Jones out, AJ Brown's going to get his share there. So that's probably where I'm going to roll is those three. I just feel like they're the safest with also equal upside. Adam Thielen's an interesting play. But if Austin's correct and Dak doesn't play, I don't know how much Minnesota's going to actually have to throw. It might be a lot of Dalvin Cook. So, and Terry McLaurin's just been meh with Taylor Heineke. Washington's really struggling, and Denver's pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. So, with this particular lineup of wide receivers, I would sit Terry McLaurin. All right, Ryan. Unless Austin wants to go first.
Yeah. He'll give Ryan some more time to think about it. I'll go AJ because, like you say, Julio's going to be out. And it's a big division game. So I expect him to kind of step his game up a little bit. He usually plays really well against the Colts. So I'm going to go AJ, Diggs, and then, like you said, I'm going to go with Debo. Just because of the matchups with McLaurin and Thielen. And like you said, with the Prescott might not play in it. Like you said, I don't think they might not throw the ball out. He has upside, but if I had to pick three, AJ, Diggs, and Debo for me as well.
The time has come, Ryan. I know it's hard. This guy
was really close. I really wanted to include him, but he was the only one that was kind of iffy about. But
it's tough, man. It's so hard to set any of these guys. Even McLaurin, like I know you said that he hasn't been great, but he was really impressive last week. I thought he looked really, really good last week. I feel like Diggs is a must
I just don't
start.
like the matchup for McLaurin, that's all. With the rest of these options, I mean, I'm starting Terry McLaurin in other spots. It's just like this guy destroyed his league. So,
yeah, I mean, Diggs is a must start for me. He's still seeing a huge, huge target share. He's the only receiver on the team that's seeing more than a 20% target share. Still seeing a ton of red zone targets. They just haven't been as efficient as they expected that to happen. We kind of expected Diggs and Allen to take a little bit of a step back from their efficiency from last year. But seeing 12 red zone targets, I think a blow-up game for Diggs is bound to happen. It very well could be this week. So I'm definitely starting him. I feel like A.J. Brown going against the Colts, I feel like he's a must-start as well. And then Debo's just in the best matchup between these other two, so I would go with him as well. So kind of a clean sweep, I guess, with A.J. Brown, Diggs, and Debo. But I don't think McLaurin or Thielen have a bad day by any means. I think Thielen gets in the end zone. I think McLaurin probably gets in the end zone too. But with it being half PPR, I feel like those other three are just have too high of upside to sit them.
I agree. What'd you say?
What?
So you went with let's recap this because I feel
A.J. Brown, Diggs,
A.J. Brown, Diggs, and Debo.
Yeah.
So that's
Clean
mine
sweep.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Austin, that is yours as well.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. 3P. All right, Ryan, you got any injury questions for Austin?
I thought so.
Let me see if I had any
What
updates.
about Devontae Parker for this week?
With him, I know they're talking about trading him as well. That November 2nd deadline, and then with the hamstring. So if it's true about the trade deadlines and him trying to trade him, I would probably say he would not play. I think they're still probably going to try to trade him. That's been a report I've read. So just because of that, and the trade deadline is in a couple of days, I don't think they would take that risk. Now, if they're not able to find a suitable partner, then I think he'll be more of a viable option for the Dolphins next week. But with him being on the trade block, and that's literally like 3 days away, I think they'll probably sit him. And he's still recovering from the hamstring injury. So that's just my personal opinion. He might strap up and play today. But I feel like if he is a tradable asset, to me, it'd be smart to allow him to recover one more week. Maybe then you could potentially get some trade value from him. So I would not expect him today just because of that, just from a trade value perspective. I think far as a hamstring and a health perspective, I think he probably could go today. But again, with all the reports about him being traded, he might sit out.
That's fair.
When is the trade deadline's a second?
Second, yeah. So you know what I mean. So
Actually,
with it being literally, with it being 3 days away, I would think that they would just probably just sit him out and then see what they can get. If not, then strap him up next week.
Oh, how about Alex Collins? I saw he was limited on Wednesday. Did not practice on Thursday.
So yeah, the did not practice on Thursdays are tough. He's listed as questionable, but I know that I heard that Pete said he was probably going to make it through. So I think he is expected to play. Again, that would be a shared type of running back committee. So your best bet for Collins is probably you're thinking more of a red zone opportunities, but look for a limited workload for sure there.
All right, it's time to peruse the Twitter. Sit one. Myles Gaskin, Melvin Gordon, Jarvis Landry, or Jacoby Myers. I did say peruse. All right, I'm scrolling through other people asking other people questions, Ryan. Myles Gaskin, Melvin Gordon, Jarvis Landry, Jacoby Myers, sit one, PPR. Oh, nope, we got our own question. Forget that other guy. I have Keenan Allen, Chase Claypool, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and Stephon Diggs. I can only start two. Which two? I also have Derrick Henry, Taylor, and Fournette. Should I just add 3 running backs or remove one and put a wide receiver in flex? Okay, so it's obviously start 2 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So he has Keenan Allen, Claypool, Metcalf, or AJ Brown, or Diggs. And then we're looking at. All right, let's just tackle this in a 2-part question. That's how I'm going to tackle it. Obviously, you can start 2 running backs, and you're starting your flex is probably Fournette. So I agree with that. I like Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor as your running back starts. So Fournette's in your flex at the moment. Quick question. Is it PPR? So if you're still there, hopefully, let us know if it's PPR because that might matter with the flex for me. I don't know about you guys. But yeah, I like Henry and Taylor as your running backs. Huh?
I'm not a huge fan of Fournette against New Orleans this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy. It's kind of where I was going to get to. I feel like Stephon Diggs is a start. AJ Brown has to be a start for me. And then I'm really torn between like Metcalf, Keenan Allen, and Fournette in the flex spot.
I like Keenan
and it's
Allen.
not PPR.
It's not?
No, I just said that. So it's not
standard.
PPR. So you're really looking for touchdowns here.
Yeah. So, and that means if that's the case, probably then that Claypool becomes an option then because I know he's a good red zone. He's a touchdown kind of dependent guy.
See, with it being standard, I might actually like Fournette a little bit more because I feel like if they get close in the red zone, they are going to use him in the red zone to score.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
yeah, I feel like in standard, starting 3 running backs is a little bit easier than the wide receivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jay Taylor, though, I don't know if he's going to get. Well, I mean,
I think Taylor's definitely gets at least one today.
Titans, I don't know. I like their front 7.
They're playing better.
I guess you could just go all 3 running backs. Yeah, I can see that. But I
just think with how standard set up, I would start the running backs. That's just how I feel. Because you're really looking for touchdowns in standard. Yeah. That's what gets you, like, that's your king there. So I like the 3 running backs, how you have it already set up. But I wouldn't hurt you, or I wouldn't fault you for moving Fournette for, like, Metcalf or Keenan Allen or Claypool. But I don't know if the standard really affects my or the standard affects the wide receivers. I still feel like it's got to be Diggs and Brown. Just because I think the upside's there. But DK Metcalf could easily have a touchdown. So that's where it's like.
I love Claypool because of the injuries for the Browns. I don't know if Denzel Ward's back up, but I know they have some injuries in their secondary. So I like the Claypool matchup against the Browns.
Yeah, I'm just torn on how long Big Ben's going to have to throw the football.
Yeah,
with Clowney and all of them. Like, I see that game being like deceivingly like terrible game. Like a good defensive game, but like for fantasy, like all those options just might be bad except for like Nick Chubb because it's just going to be like messy and the Najee Harris won't be able to get anything going like, on the ground, and then Ben won't be able to throw. Like I could see it getting real ugly, but I can also see it not. So it's tough there. Yeah, I just still feel like I'd go all three running backs, Diggs and AJ Brown. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I did like a mini thread on running backs that have averaged at least they're averaging at least 4 red zone touches a game, and Leonard Fournette is one of 7 to average at least 4 a game, and I was actually kind of surprised by that. Last 2 weeks, he's seen 8 in both games. So for standard scoring, you want as many red zone touches as you possibly can. So I'm still starting Fournette with it being standard, and then AJ Brown and Diggs as my wide receivers. I'd keep it how it is.
Same, Austin?
Yes, I definitely would.
Okay, so there you go.
Update on Devontae Parker, Jeremy. He is going to give it a go today. So, despite the trade deadline, he's going to go today. So.
Still don't like him.
Yeah, he's going to go today. So.
All I got to say is if he ruins my Mike Gesicki shares, me and Devontae Parker are going to be having some talking. All right. I'm going to fly to Miami and I'm going to be like, listen.
I'm a little upset too because I have him in my sleeper league. And I'm like, and Gesicki's been saving me the last couple games. I mean, blowing up. And now I have him in my flex. So now I don't know. So.
All right. Start Melvin Gordon or Cole Beasley this week. PPR or non-PPR, boss man? It's an interesting name. I like it.
Boss man fat.
Assume it's PPR. Ryan, you start us off. Yep. Okay, there it is. It's PPR. PPR.
Yeah, I like Beasley a lot this week. He's been one of the more consistent wide receivers. I know he's had some up and down games, but in terms of his target share, he's seen relatively the same amount of target share every week. So I like Cole Beasley this week. Like I said, Melvin Gordon seeing that split with Javonte Williams, and that game might be a little bit more pass happy than maybe we're thinking. So I'm going to go Cole Beasley in a better offense in general.
Austin?
I'm going to go Cole Beasley too. I do not like Melvin Gordon one, because he shares a workload with Williams. 2, they're playing Washington, which is really stout front seven, probably one of the better front sevens in all football. So I do not like that matchup just from the shared workload with him and Williams. And I love the matchup with Cole Beasley against Miami. So Cole Beasley as well.
I think I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm probably a little bit higher on Melvin Gordon than you guys. I just think that they're still going to be able to move the ball against Washington. Washington's kind of been not as good as the front seven as we thought. It is good. There's a lot of talent there, and they could definitely shut it down. But I think Cole Beasley's kind of the play. Without Dawson Knox, I feel like that's the big ticket for Cole Beasley. Dawson Knox has kind of been perusing the middle of the field in the red zone and just all over. He's kind of been a middle of the field type guy, and I feel like it's hurt Cole Beasley. Without Dawson Knox now, I don't see Tommy Sweeney taking that role. I think they just divert to what they were last year, a lot more 3-4 wide receivers, and I think Cole Beasley gets his share. It is a little rainy here, so I don't expect him to necessarily stretch the field. So Cole Beasley could be that kind of extension of the run game, and what Dawson Knox had could come to Cole Beasley. So I think I'm anticipating a big game, but there's always that risk with PPR and Cole Beasley just kind of disappearing. But I like it. I think the upside's definitely there for Cole Beasley this week. PPR, Jalen Waddle Chase Claypool, Michael Carter, or Alex Collins. How many do we need, Landon? I'm guessing it's one. But
it's tough.
I'm out on Michael Carter. I know he's kind of like the only guy, but I like Cincinnati's defense, so like I can axe him right away. I know he's looked a little bit better this like leading up into this week, but I like Cincinnati's defense, so I'm gonna be out on Michael Carter, especially because they're not gonna probably be able to help him in any way in the pass game to kind of open it up a little bit. So I'm definitely out on him. I don't love Jalen Waddle's matchup against the Bills. He definitely could have like one big play. The Bills have been kind of letting up at least one big play a week lately, and it feels like Jalen Waddle would be the guy to do that. But I also could see him getting shut down. The Bills have been really good defensively, no matter what position it is for fantasy. So I don't love Jalen Waddle. I think he probably has the best upside of all the players here. I'm really torn. I'm between Jalen Waddle and Alex Collins. So I'll let Ryan or Austin go, and I'm going to think a little bit harder and see if they can convince me one way or the other.
For me, this is a list of exclusion for sure. For me, Waddle, I understand what you're saying. He probably has the best upside on the list, but with the matchup against y'all, then with Devontae coming back, I feel like I'm a little out on him just for, again, the matchup, and then also with Devontae Parker most likely suiting up today. Michael Carter, like you said, Cincinnati D is very strong. So I'm out on that. Alex Collins, he's come back from injury, and he already is a rotational piece, shared workload. So I'm going to lead the Claypool. I feel like they're going to have to pass the ball. We know Steelers love passing the ball. And they're going to use Harris to get the run game going, and then they're going to get the PA off of it. So I'm going to go Claypool just because of the exclusion of the other three. Like I said, Waddle has the biggest upside, but I just don't like the matchup against y'all on the road, and then also with Devontae Parker coming back. That's the reason why I'm out on Waddle. So I'm going to say Claypool.
Fair. Ryan?
The news of Parker coming back is what's kind of deterring me from Waddle. I kind of, like I said earlier in the show, I liked Waddle because of just how teams can attack Buffalo's defenses, just using that short game and just using run after the catch. And Waddle's got that play breaking ability. But last week with Mike White as the starting quarterback, Carter saw 9 targets out of the backfield, and Cincinnati's allowing the second most receptions to running backs at 8 a game. They're one of only 2 teams that are allowing over 10 targets a game to running backs. So in a game that it's likely to get out of hand for the Jets, they might have to throw the ball. So I feel like Carter does have a lot of PPR upside. Had by far his best game of the year last week in terms of receptions. Didn't run the ball very well, but that's just how that offense is operating right now. But last week, 8 for 67 and did lose a fumble, so his day wasn't as good, but still had 16 PPR points. So I actually lean Carter, kind of work defense, rush with Big Ben being able to hold the ball and take a deep shot at Claypool. And even when he is getting time, I saw a stat somewhere, he's only completing like 60% of his passes when he's got more than 2 seconds to throw the ball. So he's just been ineffective in general. So I'm kind of nervous about Claypool. And then the Alex Collins injury and the timeshare that he's likely going to see in the backfield makes me a little bit nervous on him. So I'm actually kind of leaning Michael Carter here.
Not bad. I mean, you're all right that Cincinnati is a very zone-heavy defense, and that's probably why they lead to so many running backs out, giving up so many receptions. So with their defensive scheme being very, very, very zone dominant, because they don't have a lot of man corners. They're more smaller cornerbacks with Woozier and Hilton. They run a lot of zone. So, with that being said, yeah, I mean, I guess that is a good kind of caveat to it. Carter could get a couple swing passes out the backfield in his zone look. So,
Still don't like it. I think I'm just going to go Jalen.
I'm still going Claypool. Because I just
Yeah.
think Cincinnati's going to beat him down, but I'm still going Claypool. But I do like your argument for Michael Carter, though.
I lied. I'm going to go Alex Collins. I think that the workload he's going to see. I know that there's other running backs back there. I know that they've seen some work, but they seem to still just love Alex Collins. He's the guy there for them. And I think that he's going to see the workload. He's going to be able to move the ball a lot better against the Jacksonville defense. I think he could easily see a touchdown. I know it's not PPR, or it's PPR, but I just like what Alex Collins' floor is going to be most likely and the upside with the touchdowns. So I'll look at it as I'm starting Alex Collins because I think that the upside to get a touchdown's there and it's safer. But Jalen Waddle to me has the biggest upside. Jalen Waddle could have a huge game. But I think he's going to either have a huge game or like 0 points. So that's why I would start Alex Collins. I know I'm going to get a safe 6-7 point floor, but I might get to 15 if he sees the end zone once or twice. So
my thing is, if Alex Collins can get healthy, he's going to be a workhorse because with things going on with Chris Carson's neck condition injury, there's a chance he might not even come back this year. So for anybody, they can pick him up, maybe make a trade. I feel like Alex Collins, once he gets healthy over his groin, which can linger, we know. But I think he's going to be a workhorse for Seattle down the stretch. So, because Chris Carson, he has a possibility of not returning this year because of what's going on with his neck. So,
I agree with you. I think everything that it sounds like around Chris Carson is he's probably done. I don't see them really bringing him back aside from like a real positive report out there. Everything just kind of seems like they are really gonna. And it's not even from a football aspect, they're probably not even looking at his career. It's just probably his him as a person, quality life after football. And he's on a 1-year deal and he's kind of up there in age to the point of where he might just say, yeah, I just am not coming back. I think there's a lot going on there with that situation. The neck gets scary no matter what the injury is. So, all right, we got one on Twitter. Start 2, sit 1, full PPR, Fournette, Herbert, or Gaskin.
Say that again, Jeremy.
So it's on Twitter. It is start 2, sit 1. It's a full PPR league. Fournette, Khalil Herbert, and Myles Gaskin.
Who was the first person you said again?
Fournette.
Full PPR. Man, that's tough.
I'm just not a fan of really any of these guys this week. I mean, New Orleans has been so stout against the run. Buffalo's obviously been tough against the run. Miami's probably going to be playing from behind, but Gaskin at least holds some PPR upside. I know Fournette's been catching some passes, but Gaskin at least provides some PPR for. Man, I don't know.
I'm personally going Fournette and Herbert. I think the touchdown upside is there for both of those guys. I know it's PPR, but still touchdowns are usually worth the most points in any fantasy football league. So I'm going to go Fournette and Herbert. I think that, like you'd said earlier, Ryan, I think if Tampa gets close, they're going to ride Fournette. Fournette's been the guy there. Ronald Jones is not a factor. So I just like that, especially in that offense. I know New Orleans is stout against the run, but they also had success disrupting Tom Brady. So I feel like they're going to have to kind of lean on Fournette, and it's just going to be kind of one of those games that they're going to have to use both. So I like Fournette. I think the touchdown upside's there for him. And Khalil Herbert, I know Damian Williams is coming back. It's not a great matchup, but I feel like of anybody in this lineup, Khalil Herbert most likely will get the touchdown, especially over Myles Gaskin. The Bills are just on a next level against running backs, and we saw them do it to this Miami defense once or offense once already. I know it was Jacoby Brissett, but like I just don't foresee Myles Gaskin doing much this week. So
I'm gonna have to agree with y'all fellas, even though I don't like I'm not sold on any three of these options, but Fournette, just based on this offensive scheme, game flow, kind of just how their offense flows through the backs in Tampa. I just like Fournette. So,
Brian, I don't know if you actually gave us an answer.
So no, I like the touchdown upside of Fournette, but New Orleans is only allowing 2.8 yards per carry so far this year, and that's just really concerning for me. I'm a little concerned that in PPR he might not see enough volume to be started, but I'm also not trusting Myles Gaskin this week against Buffalo, so I feel like Fournette has more touchdown upside, so I'm going to go with Herbert and Fournette as well.
But I will also say that I think the offensive line of Tampa is going to be a very good matchup against New Orleans front four, front seven. And this is probably the better OL that they have faced all year. So to that point, I think it's going to be definitely a battle in the trenches. But I do think Tampa's OL will match up pretty well with New Orleans.
I agree. I think Tampa's offense is the offensive line's a little bit better probably than what New Orleans has faced all year. So I do think that it's a two teams good at both of what they do, going up against each other. It's going to be a good matchup. So, all right, we got another one of LaVisca or Boyd, PPR.
LaVisca.
Yeah, LaVisca. The one reason why they love Higgins. They love Higgins. Higgins is getting a lot of
Higgins
targets.
and Jamar Chase have really hurt.
Yeah, they
Boyd.
really
more than I thought they were going to this year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I figured he'd still get some work, but it seems like if both of Higgins and Chase are there, it's kind of just like Tyler Boyd's like a distraction.
Yeah, and Uzma. I mean, right? Uzma's gotten a lot of target share too. Like, so I mean, between those three. And then you got Boyd as a fourth option. It's just like I just don't think he's going to get as much work. He's more now of a touchdown dependent guy. Like I don't like before you would, lean on him to he's going to give me a lot of volume of catches. But
right now, he was very Jamison Crowder-esque before. Like he just had all the targets. Jacoby Myers, he was safe, and now it just seems like he's completely lost that.
Yeah. So. And I mean, and that's me. I'm a Ravens fan, and I was sick last week, and I watched the game, and it was Higgins, Jamar, Higgins, Uzma. Like it was just no boy. Like I think he had like maybe 2 catches, and I was expecting him because he's always gave us problems, but it was not him at all. So.
Yeah, for me, it's LaVisca just because T. Higgins is healthy. I mean, you look at the 3 games that Higgins has been back. Boyd's only averaging 5 targets, 3 catches, and 23 yards per game. And in a game that since he's probably going to get up big and early, I'm not sure they're just going to have enough throwing volume to get him involved enough to be viable. So for me, it's LaVisca against Seattle.
Dolphins continue to be interested in trading for Deshaun Watson. Do we think it gets done?
What is up with that? I've seen the Panthers were out and now they're back in. I don't really
know. It popped up on game day morning. That's what they're talking about right
honestly,
now.
No team is going to take that risk with that much draft capital, not knowing how it's going to fall out legally. So he's not getting traded this year. That's my money. I just feel like he won't be traded. I think they tried. But I think I don't know. I think people having a little buyer's remorse a little bit.
The thing is like, would you? Because they say that he can play. They say that he can play if he were to be traded. Like Houston's holding him out just because they don't want to play him and have the PR headache of having him play. But like a team that like Miami could really use him right now with how their offense has been moving the ball. And Tua looked good last week, but I mean, Deshaun Watson's on a whole different level. He's debatably a top 5 quarterback in the league. And if you could get him on your team and they're able to get everything out of court, and because as far as I know, no charges have actually been filed. It's just been like
civil cases, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm. No criminal. But I just think no team in this day and age with how many females are loving the NFL as far as viewership, buying merchandise, like this, it's at a high, it's like an all-time high. Is how much females and women are involved in the NFL. I just don't think no team want to take that risk of the PR damage that will follow with it. Even though you're right, he has not been convicted of anything. It's just I don't think from a public relations standpoint, it just won't be good. So
Yeah, and the other thing is that like you, what are the odds of having that many civil cases? What is it, like 22 or 23
yeah,
or something like that?
and all of them to be false.
Anything happen? Like, there's no
Yeah.
way these 23 women got all together, sat down, and were like, "We're gonna do this, and this is what happened." And then all 23 of them came out at separate times, and were like, "Yep, this is all what happened."
And you know how I know, and this is personally from I'm gonna use my profession is, and I work with an NFL athlete, and me and him brought it up. He was like, Austin, not a lot of athletes, particularly professionally, do not trust their bodies with with multiple providers. Like Tom Brady, he has his physical therapist he's had for like 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
They have their guys because they know their bodies, they know exactly what works, what doesn't. So for him to have like 30, 50, 60, how many have he had massage therapists? There had to have been some other like motive behind jumping around like that. Now, was he like this with all of them? Maybe not. But to go to that many, there's not a lot of athletes that trust their bodies with that many people. So I just think because at that point, your body is actually your moneymaker, right? So you don't want to trust your body with all these different people. So that's to me leads me to believe that there was some alternative motive to jumping around like that. So I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but
Yeah, I feel
like you guys said, there's just so much that it's kind of like it's hard for me to believe that nothing happened somewhere along the lines here.
Yeah, so.
It's just really interesting seeing how there hasn't been anything done by the NFL and how there hasn't. I mean, I know the legal system takes a while, but it's just kind of like it just seems a little bit like I don't know exactly what's going on, and I feel like no team's going to take that until that's cleared up. I mean, I don't know. It seems like the two teams are interested, but like it just seems like I think they're interested at a really cheap price, Yeah. And I think that Houston still wants what Deshaun Watson's worth, If he is like as an athlete, we can't argue that Deshaun Watson's possibly a top 5 quarterback, So it's hard for even Houston to give that up. If you know what I mean, we don't know, like he's innocent at this point, So like, it's just tough. So.
Let's talk about this. What makes it hard? He has a no trade clause, so he kind of honestly can determine
where he wants.
He has a little bit more of a determination about where he goes to. So that
and that makes it
plays
hard.
a role too.
Yeah, because he's not going to waive it to go somewhere that he doesn't want. So like you might have teams that really want him. Maybe the Jets want him. Maybe like a team that's really quarterback needy wants him. Denver, and maybe he just doesn't want to go there. So he's not gonna. He's just like whatever,
Yeah.
And it's as it sounds. I mean, he's set. Money wise, he's set. It's like he had a contract. It's not like, I mean, he's still young and stuff, but like it's not. If he didn't blow all his money, it's not like he needs the money. So he's just going to sit there and wait it out.
I think he wants to win. He wants to be on a good roster to win. So yeah.
All right, Winston or Darnold? I have Lamar on a bye this week.
Oof.
It's tough.
I kind of want to play the revenge game narrative and go with Jameis here.
See, so here's where I look at it. I like Jameis as in like the Tampa secondary is not great.
Especially with how bad Tampa's.
But Tampa's front 7 is very scary.
Their pass
and like how much that's what I mean. Like how much is Winston going to have to step back there? And all of the receivers that they own, well, they don't own, that they have on their roster are like deep threats, like you hardly see that passing game like with a ton of underneath stuff. So aside from Alvin Kamara. So I'm just a little bit on like I'm going to risk it with Sam Darnold here. I think that they're a little bit more equipped to beat and kind of go at Atlanta, who is also equally bad in the secondary. And I know Darnold's had a bad couple weeks, but like it hasn't been. I just think that Winston isn't that much better to me than Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? Like I like that matchup better. Less of a pass rush from Atlanta, a little bit more time, a better weapons for Sam Darnold. So that's where I'm at. Anybody?
Both games on the road, right? Both quarterbacks are playing on the road.
Yeah.
Winston at home. No, Winston's at home.
Winston's at home. I don't know if
No, Saints are at home.
Yeah. So Winston's home.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just, because of that's a tough, I'm going to go with the home team. So I'm going to go with Winston. I just think a lot of times in their tough matchups like that, you can go either or, but I'm going to go with the home. Sometimes I think Winston plays a little bit better, I feel like, at home than on the road. So I'm going to trust Winston. I'm going to go with Winston.
Ryan?
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with Winston here too. Like I said, I kind of like the revenge game narrative. I know he came out and said he wants to beat him badly. Jeremy, I definitely hear your concern about the front seven. That pass rush is definitely something to be concerned with, but having Alvin Kamara as a safety valve dump off option, he doesn't necessarily need to throw the ball deep in order to get yards and touchdowns from a guy like Alvin Kamara. So I'm just not able to start Darnold until he strings a couple games back together. And I'm not sure that's going to happen without CMC. I know DJ Moore has been down, and Robbie Anderson has just been awful, disappeared, can't catch a cold right now. So I'm just going to go with Jameis. Both games are in a dome. But like I said, like Austin said, New Orleans is at home. So I'm going to take the road team, especially in a dome. So I'm going to go with Jameis there.
All right. Twitter question, and then we're going to go to JV's second question. We'll go Taylor Heineke or risk it with Dak. Austin, I know you're thinking Dak's not playing. Ryan?
Yeah, I got to go Heineke there. I can't take if he's your only option, like there's no better waiver options out there. I would be taking Heineke just because I really don't think Dak is going to play. Because, like I said earlier in the show, if they said that if he comes out in pregame warmups and he has any sort of soreness whatsoever, they're going to sit him. They already have a 3-game lead on the division. They're 5-1. This game isn't necessarily – I know they want to win every game, but this game isn't necessarily important in terms of their division. I mean, it could have playoff implications later on down the road, but as of right now, I just don't see the reason why they would take the chance on their whole season for a Week 8 game against Minnesota. So,
and let's be honest, Cooper Rush was taking full team reps all week. There's not a lot of times, a lot of situations that happens, and that quarterback does not start. So. Has not been many situations in the NFL where a quarterback takes full reps all week and doesn't play. It doesn't start. So that is another real indication to me that Cooper Rush is going to be a quarterback this week. So.
I like it. Cousins or Tannehill for next league? Thought Tannehill would have been killing it this year. Javi, I agree. Tannehill has been a little bit of a disappointment. But I think it's just like that offense just kind of is a disappointment. Julio Jones has had trouble staying healthy. He's out again this week. I'm taking Kirk Cousins. I think that the weapon tree that is in Minnesota is a little bit better. I know we were talking there with Dak possibly not playing. But either way, I think that there's going to have to be some points scored in that game. So I'm going to take Kirk Cousins here. How about you guys?
Cousins. Let's just talk about Tannehill a little bit. I would say too, but that was my whole biggest thing with getting Julio. I just felt like they didn't add another dynamic to the offense. I feel like they don't have that explosive deep threat. Take the top off. And I always felt like that was going to limit the offense a little bit. Me personally, that's why I wasn't really sold on that Julio acquisition. But that was just me. But yeah, I'm going with Cousins. But I think the Tannehill, I think you're not seeing the offense evolve much because everything's intermediate to short. You're not seeing that threat of down the field and pushing the ball a lot, and a lot of that is because of what their wide receiver room looks like this year. So,
Ryan?
Yeah, I like Cousins this week. Going against Dallas, obviously they're at home, and Tannehill just hasn't been consistent enough for me to start him yet. Cousins has been pretty steady all year. Having Thielen and Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook as well to throw to. Tyler Conklin could be a factor in this one. So I like Cousins this week. Like I said, playing at home, solid matchup. I think Dallas is bottom 10 in terms of points allowed to QBs. So I'm all over Cousins for this one.
All right, there you go. Cousins. Twitter question, Melvin Gordon or Van Jefferson full PPR as a flex? I'm going to take Melvin Gordon here. I think it's just a little bit safer. Obviously, he's questionable. If he doesn't play, then start Van Jefferson. But I like Gordon. He's pretty safe. I mean, they both, between him and Javonte, they both basically average 8 to 9 points, and then whichever one gets the touchdown gets to like 15. So I'll take Gordon. 8 points as a flex isn't terrible. So just Jefferson has the upside, but he could also easily get you a goose egg. So I'm rolling with Gordon. Ryan or Austin?
Yeah, I'm riding with Gordon too, just because of the fact that the target share that the Rams presents as far as all their options, receiving options. I feel like Gordon's going to be more involved than Jefferson, so I'm going to go with Gordon.
Right.
I don't know. I said it earlier that I didn't like Robert Woods because of how I thought this game was going to go. I think Houston is, like I said, Houston's actually relatively tough against wide receivers. And I think that game just kind of gets out of hand early. So I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon. I think his ceiling is severely capped, obviously, with Javonte. But Van Jefferson as the third option at best in an offense against a team that's stingier against wide receivers than we thought in a game that could be a blowout where Stafford doesn't have to throw a whole lot. I'm going to take the running back here and put him in my flex spot.
I like it. I just like the limited risk of the goose egg, from Gordon.
Yep.
So
Definitely has a higher touchdown upside.
Update with Rob Gronkowski. There's some doubt whether he's going to play. Just got an update there. So I know he's expected to play, but with them having the Bucs having a bye next week, and he just was allowed to practice some pads this week, I would probably lean to him not playing today. That's just kind of a professional opinion there. Getting his first week back in pads, but not even talking about contact, NFL speed, full contact. We're just talking about just getting back in the pads. And with them having to bye next week, I don't think they're going to take that risk. So,
yep.
I'll look for him probably to sit today.
I think Brait or OJ Howard is viable then.
Yes, for sure.
I've been pushing the Cameron Brate. It's Cameron Brate. It's not OJ Howard. OJ Howard, I saw some stats that OJ Howard's basically been a blocking tight end, and Brate's been running the routes. But either way, I just feel like Tom Brady doesn't throw to him anyways. So like if it's Gronkowski or nothing, I know tight ends are like but like we've seen it. The touchdowns now go to Mike Evans. I mean, the guy's just getting every single target in the red zone basically.
Yeah, it's insane.
So like it's not like they're getting a ton of volume out of Cameron Brate, it's not like he's getting targeted a ton. He's really touchdown dependent. And that's what Gronkowski was too. And now it's just like either Tom Brady doesn't trust Cameron Brate, which could be a very good thing. And so they're just not getting it. I've tried to stream Cameron Brate a couple weeks now with Gronk out, and it doesn't pay off. So to me, I'm just off of it. I'm going elsewhere. I'm looking at a guy like an Evan Ingram or something that has more involvement in the actual whole passing game. As far as I go there with the Tampa tight ends.
And I would agree with that, but I like the matchup. I feel like the tight ends match up pretty well against the linebackers of New Orleans based on their secondary. So the secondary, I feel like will match up pretty well with
shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley's out.
Calvin Ridley and Jamal Williams are both out.
Well, Corey Davis is out too.
Yes.
Sorry, not to jump in front of you.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, Calvin Ridley is out with a personal matter.
Something's really wrong with him. Yeah.
Means I'm going to be really busy between 12 and 1 setting my lineups.
Jamal Williams is
Something's going on there though. That's terrible. I hope everything's good for Calvin Ridley though. Like that's now 2 weeks he's missed personal matters. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I wonder what is going on. Like I wonder if it's like a family thing or if it's just something with him in general.
Either way, hopefully everything's good there. All right, sorry, Austin.
I was just saying that I like the match. I think New Orleans matches up better with Tampa's receivers, so I feel like they will probably try to isolate some of those linebackers today in coverage. So I feel like Bray might be like this might be a game where that they do scheme and get the tight ends involved just because of the matchups, just because of the talent of New Orleans secondary.
Fair. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's the way I'm thinking.
It's tough. Right. It's a big maybe there.
Yeah,
I just feel like it's just like I've tried it and like it just seems like it's Mike Evans.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, yeah, New Orleans secondary is good, but it's like if they have to, they can pivot to Godwin. They can pivot to Tyler Johnson. Like there's much better Fournette. You know what I mean? There's much better options than Cameron Brate. So I get it, but I just can't trust it. I mean, tight ends you can never trust. So I mean, it's not a terrible play. I'm not saying like you're stupid for trying to start them, but like I'm looking elsewhere.
I think the only tight ends you can really trust today, like foul proof or either, and even this is kind of iffy. It's Kelsey or Mark Andrews or maybe Waller. I mean, those three are the ones that you can.
You can't even trust Darren Waller anymore. He's just disappeared completely from that offense. That's kind of,
and then Mark Andrews is, even him is iffy sometimes. So I don't know.
I feel like Mark Andrews at least gets the targets. Like he doesn't have he has blow up weeks when he gets the touchdowns, but it's like he still sees a good target share. Yeah. It's like Mark Andrews seems pretty safe. I feel like what we thought T.J. Hockenson was going to be is again now Mark Andrews. But
a lot of that's on Goff, though, I believe, not T.J.
Yeah, let's just not talk about Jared Goff. All right.
Yeah.
I endorsed him all offseason, and this is what he's giving me. Anyways, Javi has Williams, Allen, or Herbert for my PPR flex. Javi, I'm going to have to ask you one question before I can fully answer this. Is this Javonte Williams, Mike Williams, Darrell Williams? Got a lot of Williams.
Or Jamal, and he's
so can we?
Or it could be Jamal, and he's an active.
So. Can we just get a little bit of clarification there to make this a little easier?
Also, with the Allen, is that Keenan Allen?
I think it is. Oh, Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. Okay. Yeah, Keenan Allen.
It's got to be Keenan Allen.
Okay,
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I can't really think of anybody else that would be Allen, but
yeah, it's Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
He's got Mike Williams.
That's tough. I like J.C. Jackson as a corner in New England. So like the question is who's it going to be? Be Mike Williams or Keenan Allen in that game?
I think it's Keenan Allen. To be honest with you,
I was thinking it was going to be Mike Williams. He's been a big play guy.
And I think that's exactly why Belichick's going to try to neutralize him. I feel like that's going to be the guy that they focus on and let Allen run those underneath routes, intermediate routes, and see if Herbert picks him apart that way as opposed to giving up the big play to Mike Williams. In PPR, I feel like Allen's going to have a big day in PPR. So
I would agree. Like you said, I think they're going to take away Mike, let Herbert, try to get the intermediate middle of the field, and then take away the outside with Mike Williams. So I would say Allen as well.
I'll put it this way. I feel like Keenan Allen has a safer floor, and Mike Williams has a much higher ceiling for this game.
I want to be different today, so I'm going to go with Mike Williams. I think the touchdown upside is there for Mike Williams. So I'm going to take him. I expect the Chargers to want to kind of get everything right. And I feel like he still sees just about as many targets as Keenan Allen. And I really don't know what Belichick's going to do. It's really a coin flip between those two. I would definitely sit Hubbard in this situation. I just think the upside for the other two is much bigger. Hubbard's the safest play because he is that lead back there in Carolina against Atlanta. He's probably going to see 10, 12 points even in PPR. But Mike Williams has been too good all year. I know he's had a couple down weeks, but I mean, he could easily have 2 touchdowns today, So I'm going to go with Mike Williams. So it's really a coin flip. I respect you guys for taking Keenan Allen. I think he could equally have a big day. So, Javi, I think you can't go wrong if you choose either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. But I personally would lean Mike.
Jeremy, did you see we had a question on Twitter on the FF Playmakers page?
No. Ask away.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
All right. PPR flex, Antonio Gibson at Denver, Kadarius Toney at Kansas City, Marvin Jones at Seattle, Jerry Jeudy versus Washington. Need to pick one.
All right. So just give me the players.
Gibson, Toney, Marvin Jones, Jerry Jeudy.
And we're picking one?
Pick one.
Gibson. So it's Gibson, Toney,
Marvin Jones, Jerry Jeudy.
It's tough.
I'm out on Gibson. Denver's been pretty good against running backs in that whole situation that's going on there. I'd probably sit Gibson in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Toney, I'm going to say no because of injury concern and my other options in this list. I'm probably taking Jerry Jeudy personally. I think Jeudy sees a decent target share. It might be slightly limited, but I think he's probably the safest. I like Marvin Jones against Seattle, but I'm also just worried that it's Jacksonville. So we could see a lot of Visca. We could see a lot of James Robinson. I'm going to risk it with Jeudy. I just think his upside's better. I know he might be limited, but he's the best player of that list, in my personal opinion, for outside of maybe Gibson talent-wise. But I still just think I'm in on Jerry Jeudy, I think, this week. Because Washington's not as good. They're not bad, but they're also not as deep in the secondary as we think, and they've just kind of been giving up a lot of points to wide receivers this year, so I'm in on it. I also think Teddy likes Jerry Jeudy better than Courtland Sutton, personally. Before Judy's injury, it kind of seemed like it was Jerry Jeudy's offense, so.
I think I'm leaning Jeudy here as well. Like you said, I'm not really sure what's going on with him right now. I know that shin is bothering him. It hasn't been great in terms of him this year, but I would honestly take Toney if I knew for sure he was playing. I know Austin said he's got a strong chance at playing. So if he was for sure playing, I'd probably start him here. But Washington's secondary has been really bad, so I'm perfectly fine with starting Jerry Jeudy here. I feel like that offense is just better than Jacksonville's offense, and I don't see Jacksonville and Seattle being that high scoring. I feel like Denver and Washington will be a higher scoring game than Jacksonville and Seattle, so I'll take the higher scoring matchup and Jeudy coming back fully healthy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Jeudy too. Tony's and Judy's workload is gonna be limited, but I still trust Jeudy a little bit more in this option. Out of these options, like I said, Antonio Gibson, his risk of aggravation every game is high, just because of the way they handled his injury. So I'm out on Gibson. Again, Toney, I think they're going to probably be a lot more safer with him. He's a first-round draft pick. He's a big part of the offense, so I think he's going to be able to have a lot more limited snaps compared to Jeudy. So I'm going to have to go with Jeudy on this one as well.
Ryan, you're supposed to answer the question. Where'd you go? See, Ryan, best Halloween costume, Ryan. He's invisible.
He's invisible.
No, do you think there is going to be a linger with Judy's injury?
No,
Actually, I had another question. Sorry, ignore that. OBJ. Do we think I saw OBJ is expected to play? Like, if you had to pick Jarvis Landry, OBJ, from your professional injury outlook, do you think either of them have a concern to not finish the game, or do you think either one's going to have a better game off of injury? Do you know? I'm kind of get what I'm saying.
So the AC joint sprain is probably the toughest because any direct contact load from either a tackle or from the shoulder being driven into the ground can aggravate it. So the AC joint is a very aggravated. It has a higher percent of aggravation because of, particularly in contact sports. So I feel like OBJ has probably the tougher injury to battle through from a week-to-week perspective. Because all it takes is one hit or somebody to drive that shoulder in, and then you get more irritation, more load, more sensitivity to the ligaments, and that protect your AC joint. I'm pretty sure they're padding it up. They're probably doing a lot of measures to keep that joint safe. But I would think out of those two, between Jarvis and OBJ, I think OBJ probably has the higher mountain to deal with from a week-to-week perspective, just because of who he is for being tackled, doing shifts, just all of that. I think is him.
So
and they're very pain dominant. AC joints suck. The AC joint sprains suck. Like they're very painfully driven, because you got to remember the shoulder is not a very stable joint. So a lot of those ligaments give off a lot of pain. And so that's the tough thing you have to deal with any type of AC joint. It's a very painful injury.
So you think Landry would have a better game possibly?
Yeah, I would say.
That's what you're saying. Gotcha. So if you're like,
and
I was just curious if you're looking at both of them, you know what I mean? Like the injury aspect of hurting what they can do on field. So
yes,
I get you. So Odell Beckham would most likely have a harder time to be himself with the AC joint than Landry does coming off of his injury.
Yes. And the biggest thing is too, I always, when you get this percent of risk of re-aggravation, because a lot of these players are playing, right? They can, and they're injured, but will they re-aggravate or further their injury, further progress their injury? And I feel like with AC joint, that has been proven that is one that's either pain mediated and it has a higher percent of re-aggravation. So I trust Landry more as far as just giving you more production and coming out of the game without progressing the injury.
Fair. Ryan, did you answer that on the Twitter for that guy or gal?
What's up?
Did you answer that person on Twitter?
No.
I think we all went Judy, I think. Well, I don't know I think you went with Judy, didn't you?
Yes. Unless Ryan didn't.
Yeah.
Judy, and
I did go
Judy. So with Calvin Ridley out, how much are we thinking Russell Gage has a big game? Or do you think it's just mostly Kyle Pitts?
I think Pitts.
I think it's Pitts.
Do we think
I think Cordell Patterson?
Cordell Patterson, yeah.
Yeah, Cordell Patterson has better. He gets more targets.
Do we think Mike Williams is startable now? Davis, not Mike Williams. Sorry, Mike Davis. Man, I keep getting them all confused this morning.
No, I still think they're going to ride Cordell Patterson. I think they like him and his versatility. So I think it's going to be Patterson, Pitts, Gage, or either Hurst as your tertiary option. So that's the thing. That's what I'm seeing as those top four are going to be those four.
Shouldn't be started. That's a bold claim.
Ooh, man. The guy has been so involved in the offense. That's interesting.
Oh, I think he's thinking of the wrong Patterson.
Which Patterson? Man.
What?
I hope he's thinking of Jared Patterson and not Cordell Patterson.
I think he's thinking about Cordell. I hope he is too, because
we were just talking about Cordell Patterson.
Maybe. I don't know. I just feel I think Cordell Patterson is actually going to see a lot more this week. I think Carolina is really tough against the run, and I think they void off of Mike Davis because Mike Davis is a less of a matchup nightmare than Cordell Patterson is. Not saying that he's like a super nightmare matchup, but like he brings more. If normally a linebacker is covering a running back, and a linebacker trying to cover basically what's a converted wide receiver just creates a lot more matchup. Oh, he's in on Mike Davis. I mean, it is a revenge game. It comes alive. It's Halloween. It's kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Hyde Frankenstein. I'm just saying, I'm making the connection.
What I've seen, UP B25, the last 2 games, his snap percentage went from week 5 was 59, week 7 73. He's had 14 attempts both games. His targets in week 5, he had 9 targets in week 5. He had 5 in week 7. He had 6 in week 4, 7 in week 3, 7 in week 2. I just don't know how you can bench him. The dude's been heavily involved in the offense in both perspectives. So Mike Davis might come alive. Maybe some touchdowns, red zone touchdowns, for sure. But Cordell is definitely going to be involved today.
All right, this dude's got to be just trolling at this point.
Yeah.
He's got to be trolling at this point.
He must just have a lot of Mike Davis. That's I understand it.
Maybe that's like Mike Davis, like nephew, a cousin or something.
Yeah, this is Mike Davis. This is Davis' YouTube
the burner account.
Yeah, and he's just coming in. I get it. We were all hurt by Mike Davis too. I got hurt by him. Not really. I'm glad that everybody overdrafted him and didn't force me to take him. That's where I'm at.
Or maybe he's got a trade-off route and he's like,
man, let me tell you, Cordell Patterson has saved me in my sleeper league. Like the only running back I have is Chubb, and like I'm struggling.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I have a league that I picked Cordell up early on in the season off the waiver wire, and I now have Derrick Henry and JT, and I have Cordell Patterson in a wide receiver spot because he has that eligibility. He has that flexible eligibility. Yeah. And that's just unfair for him to get the workload that he's getting and being able to put him in as a wide receiver.
It saved me. I would have been just done for. But the thing is, I have that's what I did. I have Lamar and Aaron Rodgers, but nobody wants to trade me anything for Aaron Rodgers. I've had some really bad trade offers, and I'm like, nah. And I did it purposely just so I can maybe get traded later in the season, but nobody's wanting to give me anything. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I've had issues with people just trading in general. I don't know what it is, especially my home leagues. Like nobody wants to trade in home leagues, ever or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because if it's just me or if it's just in general, the trades aren't happening in my leagues, but I don't even get counters anymore. They don't even try to have a conversation. I'm just just let me have a conversation to see what we could do. But instead it's no. I swear, I've had this conversation with Jeremy before. I swear to God, it's because they know that I do this stuff on the side. They're like, well, there's got to be something that he knows that I don't know.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah, so they're like, hold on to him. Come on, man.
All right, he does have a real question. Chase or Devontae Smith in PPR? I don't know if this is actually real, but it's Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Chase everything. Yeah, and Chase, if you put Chase in any conversation, you just go with Chase. It doesn't matter at this point, man. Dude's going to be the best rookie receiver ever, So, I mean, you just –
yeah, I find that so funny that, everybody was saying how there's no Jamar Jefferson or Justin Jefferson in this year's class, and people were selling him over preseason drops and things like that, and now if he's not the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty already, he's just getting right there. I don't know very many guys that I would take over him in Dynasty right now. I mean, I'm in the middle of a Dynasty startup right now, actually. It's a mid-season Dynasty startup. And I'm addicted to drafting. I'm probably going to do at least 1 or 2 more of these. But Jamar Chase went at the 2-6 in a 12-team league, and he was the wide receiver 3 behind Tyreek and Devontae. So, I mean, he's right there in terms of where he's at dynasty-wise. But for reference, Cooper Kupp is also the wide receiver 4. So
Mid-season ones are tough. You're just going based off of like current.
yeah, but it's a dynasty league.
Yeah, I understand, but people don't.
But let's also
it doesn't
be
work
real
like that.
too.
You know how many dynasty leagues I'm in that I can't trade guys that have a great outlook in the future because they don't want to trade them because they think they're bad.
Bad, yeah, that's true.
The fantasy community, as much as I love all of you, it turns into like it's what can you do for me now?
That's it.
That no matter what
That's it.
format you're in, and that's
it.
how you should really look at it because that's just how the values go. You could think about it. People were trading Jamar Chase. I mean, I was one of them, like an idiot. You know, here I am. But you were trading Jamar Chase because the outlook wasn't great. I mean, he didn't. The concerns were justified coming in. Yes, he was clearly the best wide receiver in the class, but the concerns were justified to be like, oh, he might not do what Justin Jefferson did because Justin Jefferson was historic. It was fair for that assessment to be there at that time. But now what we've seen from Jamar Chase, it makes sense to his value. But like, it's just so hard because a lot of people are afraid to make mistakes in dynasty leagues or anything like that. Because like in a redraft league, more people don't care. I mean, it's hard to trade because it's redraft, but like people don't care. They're taking risks because like at the end of the season, I'm just getting a clean slate. In a dynasty league, you're afraid to make a trade like because you could be bad for the next 5 years because you just made that terrible trade. So it just gets hard because it's like what can you do for me now versus like a long-term future outlook, you know, like you only really have 2 years. Like whenever I look at a trade, it's like, what can this guy do for me for 2 years? Because outside of that, you know, like if your dynasty league's still going 6 years later, I mean, you're going to be lucky, to be honest. So it gets hard. I feel like trading's really hard because everybody values everybody differently, you know, like, or you get the guys, like some people will come out there and they'll be like, well, I think that he's going to fade off. Well, that's good that you think that, but I don't. So, you know, or like, oh, I think he's going to get a big game or like he's going to get more involved in the offense. Well, everybody has different opinions. You know what I mean? That's what makes fantasy football Twitter alive and anybody and anything, you know, everybody has different opinions. So it makes it, easy. You know what I mean? Like it makes it to have a community because people disagree. If everybody agreed, you'd have everybody with the same roster. So it's just I found trading to be very hard just based on that. Like it's all personal, you know, like for example, Calvin Ridley's down and everybody's like, go buy Calvin Ridley. But if you come to me with a Calvin Ridley trade, I'm not going to trade him to you. I don't care what you try to give me. You know what I mean? Like just because I know what Calvin Ridley can be and like it's still an outlook, you know, or like some people like Javonte Williams or J.K. Dobbins, you know, we all know I have J.K. Dobbins everywhere. Everybody wants to come and get him because he's the buy low. They're like, oh, I'll give you a guy who can help me now help you now this year. And it's like, well, I don't really care.
Nope.
Like I'm not going to give you J.K. Dobbins. I don't care what you offer me. You know what I mean? Like so depending on that, you know, it just is like it's tough. Mm-hmm. Trading I've found to be really hard. And I feel like it's gotten worse because so for example, a lot of people used to like give up draft picks, but like you're taking a gamble. And then this last couple of years, you've had a couple guys that have come out that have been really big and like good classes. And now it makes it harder because people aren't so easy to give that up because they think they're going to get Jamar Chase every year, you know, or Justin Jefferson. So.
Yeah. I think we have to be realistic that we've gotten really spoiled with how wide receivers have come out and performed these last couple of years. Even just rookies in general. I mean,
let's be honest, a regression is coming for Chase. I mean,
I mean, long term, like you said there, you know, Devontae Smith or him long term. It's tough though too because like, do you trust Devontae Smith? I mean, Devontae Smith hasn't been great, you know. Like, I mean, he's a solid wide receiver. Mm-hmm. The question is who do you trust as a quarterback in Philadelphia? Is Jalen Hurts the answer? If he is, then I don't really like Devontae Smith. You know, like
well, I mean, to be honest, Devontae Smith's body type says he might not last very long in the NFL himself. Like, yeah, he might, but just the way he's built,
not as a high volume.
That's what I'm saying. As a high volume receiver, getting 9 targets, 10 targets a game, I just don't think his body's capable of holding up for 7, 8, 9 years of a consistent wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1 eventually.
I mean, even like Jefferson had a crazy year last year, and he's had a little drop off this year, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
It's
Yeah.
inevitable.
That's bound to happen.
Yeah,
I
it's coming.
believe I don't remember totally looking at this, but like wide receiver is the most unpredictable of a position because you never know. Like I think the turnover is crazy as wide receiver ones from year to year. Like it's hardly ever that there's more than I think 2. Ryan, I think you even might have been someone mentioned it on our show in previous. Yeah. Like I think that there's only ever been 1 or 2 that repeat as wide receiver ones yearly, and I think it's like Devontae Adams. Like
on average, it's like 3. There's
I think it's like
average.
Hasn't it recently? It's only been like Devontae Adams and
Tyreek
Hill. Outside of that, it seems like
issues.
It's just such a repeat, such a rinse and repeat for those guys. Like a guy that we would have thought might have been there, DeAndre Hopkins, probably isn't getting there this year. He's probably going to be a wide receiver 2 by the time the season's over.
Calvin
Ridley's going to be a guy who falls out. Stephon Diggs could obviously be a guy who falls out. DK Metcalf, all these guys. Huh?
How dare you? Don't say that.
Just saying. I mean, Stephon Diggs, there's still plenty of time for him to come back and make a push for it. But I thought he could have been the wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? Like, we thought Calvin Ridley could have been. And it was justifiable opinions. And then it just turns out that either A, the team looks different or what. So.
Yeah, it's tricky with wide receiver outlook because if Deshaun Watson gets traded to the Eagles, if he trades his no-wave clause for the Eagles, Devontae Smith's value, skyrockets immediately.
And let's be real, a lot of it is dependent on so many things with receivers: quarterback play, OL play, offensive schemes. How do they work you into open? Great matchups, right. Defensive schemes, how they match up against you, single high, double high. That's how Jamar Chase really, to be honest with you, has had such a great start to the season, is that Burrow is great against man coverage and single high, and they have seen that a lot this year. And teams have basically been blitzing him and then forcing him to come up that injury and stay in the pocket and make good throws. And unfortunately, man, Jamar Chase has been, just tearing up single high coverages. And that's kind of why he's had this crazy year with all the yak. Every highlight you see, you see him a lot in single coverage. So,
but he just had that.
A lot of that is varies, wide receiver production varies on so much other things. And I think a lot of teams now with Burrow are going to go more 2 high looks. With more 2 high looks, you're not going to get those explosive plays from Jamar Chase as much. I think in the second half of the season, you won't see that as much. I don't think
he's gotten to the point where I feel like he's going to start seeing a lot more bracket coverage where they
bracket and 2 high
play inside, 2 high safety, and maybe that's when a guy like Tyler Boyd starts coming alive a little bit because then the middle of the field is going to be a lot more open. They're not going to have that guy down in the middle of the field. I would not be surprised by that at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Because literally, like I was, because when we played them, we did a lot of man, and it just didn't work well. And I just don't think, because Burrow is a good quarterback, as far as like diagnosing things. Mm-hmm. I just think man is just something that he flourishes in more. So,
well, and just when you have a guy like Chase, it's so hard. It doesn't really matter how good of a corner you are. When you're strictly man-to-man on a guy like Chase all game, you're bound to get busted at least once. Like even Marlon Humphrey, I was nervous about Chase last week because of Marlon Humphrey, and he gashed him. So, it's hard.
And my things, too, is like, and I like Wink Martindale because he blitzes a lot, but for a young quarterback, if you're showing blitz, you're showing man from pre-snap, you're really making it easy for him. And Burrow's already a smart guy. So you have this explosive guy, Jamar Chase. Oh, man, your press man locked up on him. That's, more than likely that's a good matchup. He knows kind of like, okay,
And he trusts Chase, so he's going to take that shot.
Yeah, he's going to take that matchup. So that's an easy read for me. You're giving the quarterback an easy read. So I think teams are going, again, just to Burrow and the Bengals now. So expect a regression for Chase, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Now let's have a real question. Danny Dimes, Tannehill, or Teddy B?
We ain't talk about Danny Dimes yet, I don't think.
A little bit earlier.
A little bit
I think
earlier.
before you came on.
I would love to start Daniel Jones this week. But the wide receiver injuries are a little concerning. Should be a high-scoring game, though. I feel like they should be playing from behind in this one. Tannehill against the Colts on the road against the Colts at that. We could see both of those guys just have their running backs just carry this game. Then obviously Teddy Bridgewater going against the oh my god, why did I forget who they're playing already?
Washington,
yeah. I mean, that's a good matchup. Washington's secondary has been brutal. I think they're giving up by far the most points in the league to quarterbacks in PPR or in scoring, fantasy scoring. So I think I'm actually going to roll Teddy Bridgewater out in this one.
I'm going Danny Dimes. KC is on a historic level of defensive production, and I mean, they're pretty bad, and I don't think they could fix that. I think it's actually a personnel issue. They have just really bad personnel. They don't have really good athletes back there. I think they have kind of not really addressed that side of the ball over the last couple of years, and I think it's finally catching up with them. So I'm gonna go Danny Dimes. I just cannot trust Kansas City's defense. I know it's gonna be tough. They're playing in Kansas City. But like I said, I think their defensive woes in Kansas City is more of a personnel issue, and I don't see them fixing that personnel until the offseason. So I think they're going to struggle throughout most of the year. So I'm going to go with Danny Dimes.
Yeah, and I didn't touch on it, but just looking at what Washington is allowing, I mean, they're allowing almost 3 touchdowns a game to quarterbacks over 300 yards. Seeing almost 40 pass attempts per game. Even in the red zone, they're giving up the second most points in the red zone to quarterbacks. So I really like Bridgewater in this spot. I get the Danny Dimes take. I really do. But it seems like Kansas City is starting to get a little bit healthier. Chris Jones is supposed to play tomorrow night or tonight. Tomorrow night. And I'm just kind of curious to see what the defense looks like once they get everybody healthy. But I understand the Danny Dimes take. I understand wanting to start him. Teddy Beach is in too good of a spot. Getting Jerry Jeudy back, having Sutton there. I feel like he just has better weapons to get the ball to than Dimes probably going to
have. Court Davis is out for the Jets today.
Yep.
That's going to be tough for the Jets. So I think maybe even buy a little bit more Michael Carter today with Corey Davis being out.
I think Corey Davis out actually even hurts Michael Carter. I'm just out on the Jets. I'm not going to start a Jet unless I have to. I just think that they're not going to be able to do anything. I think at least with Corey Davis, there was some threat of stretching the field. I think now you're just kind of, you got a lot of unproven wide receivers other than Crowder there, and you got a quarterback who's never done anything ever in the NFL. So, he looked okay in the relief, but Cincinnati's defense is too good for me to even try. So
You're not wanting to throw Elijah Moore in the lineup?
Don't even get me started with Elijah Moore. Anyways, Cole Beasley, Kadarius Toney, or Jacoby Myers. Matt, is this PPR real quick?
I think it's Beasley for me, regardless, to be honest with you. Unless Toney can play. I like Toney a lot. I really do. With what he's done recently when he's healthy, I do like Kadarius Toney a lot. But I'm just not sure I'm willing to take the chance on him being inactive and missing out on Beasley's upside for this game against Miami.
So it's full PPR. I probably lead Beasley too. Toney's questionable kind of hurts, and Jacoby against the Chargers isn't great for me personally.
Sweet Toney, limited workload. Jacoby, hate the matchup. Beasley, great matchup. I'm going Beasley.
Jeremy, how are you feeling about Emmanuel Sanders today?
Not as good. I just think that with the weather, it is clearing up, I think, a little bit outside. But I like Beasley. I think he gets a little bit more involved this week than Sanders. Oh, and we have a question. Emmanuel Sanders or Kenny Gainwell?
No. Weird.
Ryan?
See, this one's tough because I love Kenny Gainwell this week. Going against Detroit, he was actually one of my starts for the week. Obviously, with Miles Sanders out, he's likely probably in a lot of people's lineups. But with this question, Detroit's allowing over 9 yards per reception to running backs, and are seeing the 8th most touches to running backs for the first 7 weeks on a per game basis, while also allowing the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. And that's not to mention that they're tied for the league lead for the most running back receiving touchdowns in the league so far. So I expect Gainwell to have a really big game here. Josh Allen and Emmanuel Sanders seem to have a really good connection. Sanders seems to be the guy that he likes to take the deep ball to. So to me, I think it kind of depends on what you're chasing. I feel like Sanders could have more upside because like I said, he's the deep threat right now for Buffalo. But there's also the risk that Buffalo gets out to an early lead and they don't need to throw the ball as much, and Sanders kind of duds you out, as opposed to Philadelphia, who can get Gainwell involved in multiple ways and are in a really good matchup. So I would personally go Gainwell there.
I agree. I think Gainwell has more, like you said, basically, it's just Gainwell has more opportunities. He should see more rushing. He should also see some PPR upside. And Emmanuel Sanders is just like kind of, I mean, he gets a decent amount of target share, but like he's very dependent on a touchdown to have like a big game. Where Kenny Gainwell, I think you could see at least a decent PPR floor. I think he's been pretty safe around that 8 to 9 range. But he'll also have the upside of getting close to 20 because of touchdowns and just more rushing work that he should get, even if he gets part of what Sanders used to have. So,
yeah, I'm going with Gainwell as well. Just the involvement in offense. I just think he's going to be more involved, more opportunities, like y'all said. So, Gainwell.
Fair.
Yep. That was actually kind of tough for though, because of how consistent he's been. Sanders has been.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. I have to go. So if Ryan would like to stay on with Austin, do you guys want to stay?
I'm about to go get all my lineups situated right now.
Yeah, I got to get lineups. I didn't realize it was 10 after 12 already.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, thank you for joining us on this Halloween Sunday.
Man, y'all giving out candy today? Y'all big in Halloween right up there?
Taking my kids out.
Yeah, we'll pass it out.
What are they dressing up as?
My son is going as a Minecraft character.
Okay.
My 2 daughters, my one daughter is going as Cinderella. My other daughter is going as Elsa from Frozen. So
hey, okay.
And I literally spent
today. Huh?
I literally spent $1 on my costume. $1.
What did you?
I just got just a knockoff Jason mask, and I already had like this big fire resistant Carhartt jacket that's dark and dark overalls that are the exact same color, and they're like I said, they're darker. So last night we were having a little get together for Halloween, and I walked down the stairs, and all 3 of my kids, my cousin's kid, and my niece just freaked out. I mean, they were terrified because I'm 6'4", so like I'm in that jacket makes me look huge. So, yeah. I mean, they saw me and they all screamed, cried, and I was like, "Oh God!" I was like, "I took my mask off." It's just me. It's just relax. It's just me. But yeah, $1.
And with you being so tall, like that, Jason matches you just because from your body type.
Yeah, exactly.
You pull it off,
But no, it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
I love it.
I'm excited.
All right, fellas. Next week.
All right, guys.
Go Bills. Get y'all in, man.
Everybody, thanks for stopping in. Good luck on your lineups. Hopefully we helped you guys out.
Yes, sir.
See you guys next week.
See you.